Well, he said in that wonderfully emotional interview after the final with George that there were dark days in January, I think he said, when he just felt all the injuries, his game had gone. He was very close to saying, "That's it, I've had enough, I'm not going to play." To go from there to where he is now is just fantastic. It's one of the great sporting stories, as I think I said in the commentary. It transcends golf.
The British Amateur Championship is one of the oldest and greatest events in golf. The first, in 1885, was played at Hoylake in England. Bobby Jones won the British Amateur in 1930 in what was then considered a part of his Grand Slam of Championships. Other notable winners include Sir Michael Bonallack, who won it 5 times, Joe Carr, the great Irish amateur, who won it 3 times, Jose Maria Olazabal in 1984, and Sergio Garcia in 1998. Runner-ups include Colin Montgomery, Trevor Immelman, and Tommy Fleetwood. You like the stories of Monday qualifiers who get a spot in a PGA Tour event? Then you'll love the fact that the winner of the British Amateur Championship gets a spot in the Open Championship, the Masters, the US Open, a European Tour event, and a 5-year exemption into the US Amateur, assuming they don't go pro. The 2021 British Amateur Championship would be played at Nairn Golf Club in Scotland on the same weekend as the US Open at Torrey Pines. Here at the Fire Pit Collective, the team had assembled to meet and greet, brainstorm story ideas. Colt Nedler, our newest hire, jumped in.
Did you guys hear what happened at the British Amateur Championship? Wild.
All right, before we get to what would be one of the greatest 38-hole finals in the 126-year history of the tournament, you should get to know Laird Shepherd, the 23-year-old Englishman who was 30th alternate and came into the week not only inspired by being healthy, he was also just grateful he had a spot in stroke play. We start with Shepherd's earliest memories of golf.
Probably playing with I've got a twin brother, playing golf with him in our backyard, plastic clubs, plastic golf balls that only go about 35 yards and making our own little golf course. I mean, that seems like a common story for a lot of people that play golf, but, that was my earliest memory of playing golf. Never really took it very seriously, just enjoyed it and pretended like we were on TV. And
Stuart Shepard, Laird's father, has always loved skiing, horse racing, and golf. Laird is an elite amateur on the links. His twin brother, Callum, is one of the best young jockeys in England.
They were born prematurely, so 7.5 weeks premature. So they were both pretty small. Laird was only 3 pound 2 ounces, I think. Hardly anything to him. And the result, they were always small, and they loved soccer, and they were pretty good at it. Laird up front as an attacker and Callum at the back, but they were just ultimately too small to compete. They actually went to a specific school to play soccer when they were 13, but really they're already probably being outgrown by all the lads at the same age. So
obviously they've both found their way to their respective sports. Laird's college golf was on scholarship for Dean Robertson at the University of Stirling in Scotland, where he was a freshman in 2016.
It's funny because, the guys from Stirling, we usually go and play in the Prestige in California in February, which I think is Stanford's and UC Davis's co-hosted event. And wow, it was eye-opening to go and play in that. But I remember the year before I started at Stirling, the guys were leading after the first round, which was amazing because, the level of golf that the biggest, college teams were playing is just amazing. And to see Stirling competing in that was like, I don't need to go halfway across the world to play against some great players. And so that's really what made me decide that Stirling was the place for me to go, basically.
The good news was they had a good team. The bad news was they had a good team.
Now look back at the team that we had at the time, that year, you had 2 guys play the Walker Cup in 2015. The year before I came, 2 Swiss guys who were in the top 100 in the world, another couple of guys who were, if not in the top 100, very near to it. So it was a very competitive team. And, I I went from being probably the worst player on the team in my first year. And to be honest, that's where you want to be. If you wanted to develop, you want to be that worst guy on the team, and you want to get your butt kicked every practice. And that's what it was for the first 3 or 4 months, but led to huge personal improvement and growth for me, and soon became one of the better guys on the team. It just worked out perfectly, really, those first few years. Yeah.
Meet Chloe Godby.
Hello.
Hello, Chloe.
How are you doing?
Shepard's girlfriend of 3 years, and, oh, by the way, is the recent winner of the Women's Scottish Amateur Championship.
So we both started at Stirling University in 2015, in September 2015. So that's kind of where we first met, and we were the two only freshmen in the golf scholarship program at Stirling. So kind of coming into the same experience, and we came into a really great team. There was 4 players on the men's team in the top 100 in the world rankings. The women's team was starting to get some strength to it. So there's a mixed kind of program there. And, obviously that's where we got to know each other, and just on kind of trips and things. And yeah, then we became what we are today. So
things were good at Stirling until they weren't anymore.
I struggled with sort of low right side back pain, probably 2017. So that would have been my end of my second year, and at that point I was starting to play pretty well. So I had a few months off here and there, and it's just something that bugged me for a long time. Essentially for the last 4 years, excluding January from now, because I seem to have got things under control now, but I literally would barely practice hitting long shots. I'd just work on my wedges, work on my short game, and then 2-3 days before an event would just sort of hit a few longer shots and just get used to it, and would just go about things that way because I couldn't handle hitting a lot of balls.
Laird's back pain led to an MRI, which revealed inflammation of the facet joints, which, and I'm no doctor here, but Laird says, and Google confirms, that they hold the discs in place. So Shepard made a change to his swing. Then there was knee pain, which led to minor knee surgery, which he came back from too soon, and that led to more knee pain, more surgery. And when he got that under control, there was more back pain. As he said to me,
it takes its toll.
Not to mention short days, bad weather.
There's some long winters over in Scotland here, so dark nights, cold winters, and I think spending days on end. We lived together one winter at university, and just spending days in the flat where he can't go and play golf because of his knee, I think was probably some of the toughest times for him.
I think it was February 2020. I had to walk off the golf course and started having some sort of severe nerve pain in my left hip and lower side of my left back. And again, it was pretty much the same thing, and inflamed facet joints and stuff. And that's when I was at my lowest. I was pretty lost as what to do at that point. So
to be physically lost as it relates to golf is every golfer's worst nightmare.
I really doubted for a long time that my body would allow me to do what I wanted to do. And the more you look at golf swings and stuff, I watch Bryson hit balls on when it's on my phone, and it's it freaks me out because I just think of all the things that your body doesn't want. It's not designed to do that. It's not really designed to swing a golf club, to be fair. So all that stuff you start to really internalize and just sort of doubt whether it's going to work out. And to be honest, I think the coronavirus hitting when it did was obviously it's been a disaster for a lot of people, but for me it came at the best time it could have done, in terms of I was at my lowest and I probably needed the whole world to stop for a few months so I could try and figure it out. So in a way I'm thankful for that, because if I'd lost another 5-6 months, I don't think I would be able to have faced it really. So
Shepard started seeing Charles Marshall in March of 2020. While sheltering in Scotland, he was also doing his college dissertation on how elite athletes come back from injuries.
And I've been someone who has been told that basically the stronger you get, the more immune to injury you're going to be, which is true to a certain extent, but it just didn't work for me. Now, I worked my butt off in the gym. You know, I really went through a stage of lifting lots, trying to get really strong, and it never helped me. It just actually it disadvantaged me really. So going to see Charles and doing things that, you know, you'd never ever think about doing. A lot of it, the stuff we started with was breathing drills and different sort of mobility modalities, but stuff that I walked away from that and thought, that's really different. No, I've never done stuff like that before. And I think for someone searching for an answer, doing things that are completely different is great, because you think, well, at least I haven't tried this before. So
the sheltering in St. Andrews was with Chloe and her sister Lauren.
I think COVID probably gave him a good chunk of time to work on his body. I mean, he's the hardest worker I know. The amount he puts into rehabbing his body and just doing everyday things that people don't realize that people do to kind of just to keep him in a place where he can play.
To break up the boredom and to make a little cash, the three of them got jobs at Tesco's call center, which they had to do from home. Tesco is a chain of supermarkets. The job answering phones paid £8 an hour, which is $11.
So yeah, it was an interesting one for us. We felt like we had to get up early and get everything done before 3:00 when our shift started. And I think Laird, he probably hated it every day. Every day we did it, but I guess it gives you some perspective, doesn't it?
It was eye-opening. It's definitely not what I want to do for the rest of my life. So whatever I end up doing, you know, I've got to try my best and do it to the best of my abilities, because you know, you've got to make the most of your opportunities to make sure you don't do something you don't want to do.
Chloe got laid off in July of 2020 in an act of what Laird referred to as...
I quit in solidarity with her.
So Shepard quit Tesco and they both started playing some golf again.
I think it was the start of July, and that kind of gave us a good block. We both played the British Amateur in 2020 in August. And I think we had about 6 weeks to kind of prepare for that. And that was quite nice to have a good chunk of time to dedicate to practicing. And we just went out and played lots together, trying to get a card in the hand to try and create some form of pressure that we hadn't had before. So, yeah, I think that's an experience neither of us will forget.
Who doesn't love a card in hand? I love that phrase, card in hand. You know, you get a good card in hand. That's competitive. That's like, that means you're competing.
Yeah.
I love that. You got to get card in hand. When Laird and Chloe would practice, it was at Duke's, not far from St. Andrews. And even though it was nice to be outside and swinging the club again, the golf wasn't great and Laird's body still wasn't right.
In August, we played the British at Birkdale. That was great to just get playing again. Made the match play, then got beat in the first round, but I was happy because I played decent and I, you know, physically held up to playing some golf again.
I remember him saying to me before the tournament that he was a bit concerned about his body and that he felt that if he got through the 36 holes stroke play qualifying, if he qualified for the match play, he was concerned that he wouldn't be able to play the match play because of his body.
Like most golfers who are chasing answers, Shepard was open to any opinions on his swing and body, which included David Patrick, Chloe's coach. I asked Shepard for the consensus of what they all considered his issues.
Basically, I didn't really turn my hips, or didn't turn my hips at the time, so my swing was a very short John Rahm length action, and I had a lot of lateral shift into my lead side. So that was basically, I think, what was causing quite a lot of discomfort, because every time you hit a golf shot, it's like you've got a mini car crash going on in your sort of left hip, basically, because everything's compressing and going into the ground. So trying to get more turn in the backswing, and then hopefully that should mean you're clearing a little bit better on the way through and give yourself a bit more time.
By the fall of 2020, the back pain started being a factor again, which is where fate plays a part in the life of Laird Shepherd.
I mean, this next bit I think is quite a fairy tale, sort of just like, thank God our paths crossed at the right time type of situation. But I was, during my junior golf days, I was friendly with this guy called Tom Bailey.
Hi there.
Matt Ginella here. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. How are you doing?
Bailey, who's currently competing and coaching, remembers the early days.
Special. Like, he was good. Everyone knew he was good. He was never the longest. Like, he's never been the biggest guy. He's still not, but he can get it out there for pound for pound. He gets it out there. Yeah, but not the longest. And junior golf, he just putted and chips as good as anything I've ever seen.
We were mates. We played at the same golf course. We played a lot of golf together, and we travelled around a few tournaments together when I was younger.
We all knew that Laird was going to be good, and then obviously he went through issues with injuries, and he went quiet for a while. But you just got to get him healthy and on a golf course, and he's going to do something good.
So I'm back home in January, or in December. Sorry, just came down before my grandfather's funeral, and then stayed for Christmas. But I was at a range nearby and was hitting balls, and Tom had just recently started coaching.
Yeah, we bumped into each other and we were more just catching up about the last few years, and then we were hitting some shots with each other. And as you do, you talk about what you're working on. And he was saying about like stuff he wanted to sort out in his swing that were causing him issues with his body. And with my background of how I got into coaching, what got me into coaching originally was going to seek out someone to help me with the issues I was having with my own body. So I learned a few things from that. And I put some of those points across to him and said, well, have you thought about maybe this is the cause to, and I'll go into more detail about that, but you thought about this is causing what you're trying to fix to happen. Kind of instead of dealing with the root cause of what was happening, it was the right stuff that he wanted to work on to try and free up some limitations and take some stress off his body. But the thing that was making him move like that wasn't being fixed. So I just said, look, you've got to look at how you're set up to the golf ball. You've got to look at your posture, positioning of your pelvis. This is all having a big influence over the way you can move. And I think he heard the same thing a lot about these are the things you got to improve in your golf swing. And he works, as you know, works his arse off on it and tries to improve it, but doesn't see it getting better. And I think it was probably a bit of a breath of fresh air for him to hear a different viewpoint on maybe why there's problems with what he's doing.
He'd gone out to see George Gangas in the States, I think, earlier that year, and was sort of, basically, I think with George's blessing, trying to do some of the stuff he's been taught. And I know Tom as well has definitely got his own ideas about stuff as well. So
Tom Bailey's ideas were based on the research he had done to solve his own back issues.
Just one day scrolling through Instagram and came across George Gangas. And are you familiar with George, yeah? Yeah, so he I see the swings, and this is back 4 or 5 years ago, back when everyone thought he was mental and crazy guy. He's just a random bloke with a good Instagram with crazy golf swings. And I saw that none of his guys had any of the issues I had. And I thought, look, I'm going to go see this guy because he seems like he's doing something different. It was a big jump to go all the way over to the States, and he was quite expensive. But I learned some stuff off of him that was game changing for my own game, but also led me into the coaching by complete accident. And basically the way he teaches posture is very, very different to the last 30 years of instruction, but not that different to previous 30 years before that of way people used to set up. So
he just comes onto the range, and he always usually asks me how I'm doing or what I'm working on, because we're mates, so we were having a chat, and he was saying, well, let me have a look at your golf swing. At the time, I was pretty reluctant to show him, because you get into a stage of having too many opinions and having too many people try and tell you what they want. But I let him have a look, see me hit a few balls, and said, I think I know what your problem is. And I'm like, yeah, I'm sure you do, yeah. because that's a classic line for coaches.
Back to Stuart Shepard, Laird's father, on the chance meeting with Bailey.
I guess it was probably fate. I mean, Tom is quite a garrulous guy. I've not seen him for a couple of years. I briefly managed our county junior side, and so I knew Tom reasonably well then. And he's one of the guys who'll talk a lot, and sometimes you might switch off. but he's a very nice guy. But and I think Laird probably, when Tom came and started sort of giving him hints of what to do, he was initially a bit resistant, maybe.
I humoured him and was like, okay, so what would you have me do?
So I talked him through some of the posture stuff, and it feels crazy at first because it goes against everything we the last 30 years of coaching, of what we would believe is fundamental good posture and textbook and looks aesthetic and everything. And he's like, it does feel weird, but he had a couple of shots and he said he felt some swings that he felt freer than he ever had, and some ball flights, and he felt all of a sudden he can move it both ways.
He came and got me into the setup position that felt completely alien to me. I mean, the first time I showed the golf swing of how I was trying to do it to my girlfriend, after that, she thought I was joking. She thought I was joking how I stood to the ball.
I did. I can't believe he said that, but I did, yeah. He showed me it, and I was like, I looked at him and I thought, he's not being serious. But he was being serious. So I said, you do you know, everyone's their own person. I don't know what's right. So there you go.
So it wasn't massive amount of work to get him to actually make the change. It was more just, I think, giving him the actual explanation behind how the anatomy works and what it was causing him to do. And as soon as he understood that, it clicked. And he's like, well, why wouldn't I want to do that? I think he was willing to try anything at that point.
So I did it, and I was like, wow, this actually feels a lot easier to do the things that I'm trying to work on with David. And, this is pretty amazing. Like, I wasn't expecting this. And so then a few more days went by and saw him again. And he's big on just doing a lot of, movements that you could do in the gym, drills that you could do away from the golf course. And for me, that was brilliant, because I was at that point, I was getting pretty sick of playing average golf. And when I go and hit balls, I want to hit shots. I don't want to work on stuff. It's just the way I am. So, for then January, I'd FaceTime him. I had to go back up to Scotland because of the lockdown restrictions and stuff again. But we'd FaceTime Tom quite a few times and just get different drills and different stuff to work on, and a lot of sort of band stuff and trying to create a bigger turn, essentially.
And to be honest, it hasn't been like an intense relationship in terms of he's coming to me every week. We've been grinding. It's me giving him some more like consulting to help him with his swing. Kind of got a FaceTime every few weeks to see how things are going, make some progress on other things. And yeah, that's how it went over the lockdown. I mean, my whole business went online because of the lockdown here, and I was getting used to pretty much that's where I do most of my work now is online anyway. So.
And, it worked. I didn't hit a ball for probably the first 6 weeks of the year in 2021. I just did all this drill stuff every day, and went to hit balls for the first time sort of mid-February, and sent a video to Tom and was like, mate, you've solved it. You've done it for me. So I was just so relieved to have something that was seeming to work. And that was huge. Even up until a few months ago, I would call my parents and they'd ask me how I'm getting on. I'd say, I can't believe that Tom Bailey has saved my golf career, and he's one of my mates from when I was little. It's just pretty cool that he was the guy to really help me. And that's not saying that David and Charles haven't helped as well, but everything just come together at the right time. So couldn't be more grateful for that.
Tom shared a text he received from Laird.
The one he sent which was from the 30th of May, was, I said, "Hi, Chief. Had the first event in the last few days. Just wanted to thank you for the help. Body is feeling good and played golf Monday through to Saturday with no problems. I was very rusty, and it's always different bringing newish move to tournament golf for the first time, but overall happy with how things are going. Dropped 3 shots in the last 3 holes to miss the cut by 1, but grateful to be pain-free. We're on the right track." So I just wanted to say that it's awesome to hear that he's happy that he's played an event without pain. He knows he's missed the cut and he's laughed about it, but the fact that he's done it without pain was a start. So that was nice to hear. And obviously, when you've helped a player, you want to know that they're having success with their scores and through their events. But it's weird that it almost brings more satisfaction knowing that you've helped them actually continue to play golf.
It was instantly noticeable to me how it was just much easier to move, basically. And that's the worst sensation, I think, for any golfer. If you're stiff or you feel like you can't do what your brain's telling you to do. And so it was sort of instantly a lot better. And then, you've got to work at it because it's a very different, for me, it felt very alien at the time. So it took a lot of work, but the best thing is when you get sort of instant satisfaction or instant results from something, and you can see that it's working, and that's what kept me going, because I was getting results, whereas previously, put a lot of hard work in and not really seeing any benefit from it. So,
did you get to times where you're like, you're emotional, you're out, you're done, fuck it?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Multiple times?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I said to my girlfriend in November last year, I said, I think my words were, I don't know how much longer I want to keep doing this if nothing changes, if I'm not getting any results, basically.
I think at that point it's just that thought, like, can I actually put myself through this? All the work that goes into it, if it's not going to work out. So yeah, I think that was a tough time for him, and to have that, I think he did have a bit of a conversation with himself in terms of he needed to be open to exploring a few different things if there was anything that he was interested in, just being open to the idea that golf might not be the thing that works out for him. My most memorable sort of meltdown, let's say, was probably in the very start of January. I'd only just started seeing Tom, or only just seen Tom in December, and hadn't really played much golf, and went to practice one day and just was not hitting it very well and struggling with a little bit of sort of residual back pain, although that seemed to work out in the end. But I hit about 5 or 6 shots. It was very, very cold, obviously, in January in St Andrews, but hit 5 or 6 shots and just chucked my club about 50 yards into some rough and walked back to my car. And I was pretty upset. I just said to my girlfriend, like, I'm not very good at anything else. So it's kind of scary thinking you spent 5, 6 years of your life pursuing something that ultimately turns out, potentially not to be. I was there next to him when he was throwing that club and telling him to, keep his chin up or whatever, or trying to be the positive voice. But there's just nothing you could say at that point, because, again, I've not been through what he's been through, and, that's unique to him. And
fortunately, after that was when I basically decided I'm not going to hit a ball for a month and just do this stuff. And, that gave me a little bit of time, which was probably a good thing as well. Just to get used to the changes and just get back to playing golf on the golf course. I mean, wow, I look back on the first 4 years or 5 years at university, and I could probably count on both my hands in that 4 years how many bounce games I played. I mean, I literally didn't play golf if it wasn't a golf tournament. So just being able to get back and enjoy playing golf. I mean, if you want to get better at something, you've got to enjoy it. And that allowed me that time to just get back playing and enjoying the game. So
Laird Shepherd entered the 126th British Amateur Championship at Nairn as 846th in the World Amateur Golf Rankings.
Yes, I got a call probably, must have been 2 or 3 weeks before the event. So it was quite a long time before it started, saying that, I got a place in the field. And I know there was a lot of alternates that got in just because of the travel restrictions and stuff. So obviously, one of the most depressing things for me was thinking about, imagine if I don't even get into these events anymore. Events that, I was playing to win 3 years ago. I was really thinking I could win these events. And to think that I wasn't even going to get a spot in the field, that was, it hurt pretty bad. So
I knew he could go far in it, obviously. I think he did too. And but, you've got to take it one step at a time. The first protocol is to make the cut in the qualifying. And, he didn't exactly breeze through in that either. So, it was kind of a 2-step process. But I think once it gets to the match play, he's gonna always grind it out to the end. So
Part 2 of this podcast starts at the first round of stroke play at Nairn. You'll meet several new characters, and you'll not only hear about one incredible comeback, an amazing display of sportsmanship in class, there's also some friendship, tough love, bad yardage, a big coffee, the jitters, and a street fighter in new shoes.
Yeah, on the first tee, behind the first tee, there was a guy, and he turned to the guy he was with and said, I've been watching this Laird Shepherd. He's a real street fighter. I thought that was a pretty precedent thing to say in the circumstances.
Matt, I think that was one of the wonderful things about it, that to be fair, and I don't want to be unkind, that nobody had really heard of either of the guys. And it's because of COVID, obviously the world has changed, and that the field for this year's amateur was maybe not as international as it's been in the past. It certainly was still a strong field. But these two young guys had not really come up on the radar. They hadn't, to be absolutely honest, done a whole lot. But they gave us just one of the great finals, 36 holes, 38 holes of stunning drama.
So we're back to the start of the 126th playing of the Amateur Championship at Nairn Golf Club on a northern coast of Scotland. In Part 1, you get the backstory as to why this is such a special story, at least one aspect of why it's special, which has a little to do with the fact that Laird Shepard, a 23-year-old amateur who got a scholarship to play at the University of Stirling in St. Andrews, nearly quit the game in January of this year. After several seasons of back pain and knee surgeries, he got a timely tip from a childhood friend, which ultimately led to a life and legacy-changing moment in time. Before we get started on what some simply refer to as the Amateur Championship, I should tell you something about Nairn Golf Club, the venue for this story. The Scottish Links was founded in 1887 and has 1,300 members. At Nairn, gorse is a hazard. And according to their website, the great James Braid once said, "The texture of the turf and the character of the greens is unrivaled." One of the characters in today's story is George Harper Jr.
Hey.
George, Matt Ginella.
Hey, Matt, how are you?
An announcer for the RNA who was covering his third amateur championship.
We visited about 3 weeks prior to the amateur, and we got some behind-the-scenes interviews, and we chatted to one of the historians there who took us behind the scenes, and they've got this really cool archive room. And it was amazing to see his emotion alone when he was telling the story about where the club came from. It was always a golfing community. If you were from there and you played golf. And it was obviously the history of Tom Morris, who recently turned 200 approximately. And the fact that he had a little part to do with it was so cool. And then back in the day, it was a massive fisherman's town as well. So they've got the bothy and the ice house down the end of the course, which is like now turned into at the 9th where you can get your snacks, your drinks, and have a little break. And it's just got all that amazing history. And
I played Nairn once a long time ago. I don't remember a lot of detail other than the only holes on the water are the first 7, and they all go out in the same direction.
Yeah, so they hosted it back in the 90s. They had a good amateur there, but they've also got the Walker Cup behind them and the Curtis Cup. So they had so many big names come there, and they make sure they all sign the book on arrival. So on the first tee at the amateur, Gordon was there, the starter, and making sure everyone signed the big book. And looking back, you've got all those cool names from the Walker Cup sides and the US sides as well. So there's no shortage of club history, and they are really, really proud of the tournaments that have been there in the past. So this was their second time hosting the championship, and it'll no doubt go down in history. And we were just so happy to be able to open it up to fans, because literally only the week before we'd finally got the AOK to allow members to come. And then from there, it went from, I think, 400 odd members to 1,000 members and fans. So it just really helped lift the morale and the energy at Nairn Golf Club. So we're very lucky to be able to get everyone in there to watch what was an amazing final.
While we had him, I asked Harper to give us the details of the format.
Yeah, so the amateur championship is, I like to call it a marathon. It's a true test of golfing fitness. It's something that I certainly couldn't do, even if I had the talent. It's a long, long road. So traditionally it starts with 288, I think, and it's like they use two different courses, and where you get one round of stroke play at each course. So you swap over. So without COVID, there's normally a huge field, but with COVID and not much travel, the field was tightened, but it was still a really, really strong and impressive field, which everyone was really happy with. And then so you do 2 rounds of stroke play, and then from there your top 64 players advance to the match play rounds. So if there's ties, it's all on countback. But normally with the bigger field, there'd be an extra round to get your 64 and ties entered. But your top 64 and ties go through, and then that's when you get seeded into the top of the table. So your top qualifier plays the person in 64th, and then that's how you get your seeds, and you go into match play knockout from there.
We were into a lot of wind the day we played, which is exactly how they had it for the first round of stroke play. Again, our main character, Laird Shepherd, was coming into the amateur just happy to be playing pain-free. And as the 30th alternate, he was also just grateful to be in the field. After all, he had card in hand.
I was not a bad 77. It was blowing about 45 miles an hour. I teed off in the afternoon and then literally lay on the first fairway for half an hour waiting for the group in front, because the ball was basically blowing off the green. And I was thinking, we're going to walk in here because they're not going to finish the round, because it was only supposed to get stronger. And so we waited for half an hour. Then suddenly they just kept playing. So got up and played. And I came in after that round of golf and said to my friends, I was like, I played really well and I shot 6 over there. So
after day one, Shepard was somewhere in the middle of the pack.
Went to play the second round. It was much calmer, and probably left about 5 or 6 shots out there, but did enough. That's all you have to do.
After a 71 under, he was in as the 54th seed. He had been here before and had lost in the first round of match play.
The mindset for match play is huge. It's so different. I think that's the toughest thing is to get through those first few matches, because you got to snap from stroke play into match play, and you got to have a different mindset. And I think I was able to learn from my previous failures to win my first round match, to really go, you've got to put your foot on people's necks and get the job done as quickly as possible. So that sort of was what my mindset was, yeah.
First round, Shepard played Aaron Snare Juliusson. If Shepard was ranked 846th in the World Amateur Golf Rankings, Juliusson of Iceland was ranked 203rd.
He was a good player. A really solid player. He shot 6 under the day before, so this guy can play. Usually people don't link up to 6 unders in a row, but I knew I was in for a match as soon as we teed off. Hit this perfect rifled stinger driver, and I'm like, okay, this guy's got some game, and got off to a flyer. Won the first 2 holes, and was in control all the way really, but managed to I think eagle the 15th hole to go 3 out with 3 to play, and then got it done down that next hole. And I played really well there, and that gave me a lot of confidence. My confidence grew as the week went on. But it's always good to get off to a good start and not burn too much energy, because the further you go, the nearer you get to 18, the more of that sort of mental energy you're burning, and you want to try and save that up for when you need it. So
Shepard had made the trip with Andrew Davidson, a good friend and his former teammate at Stirling University. Your first impressions of Laird Shepherd?
Classic English guy. I would put him down as that.
The bracket was set up to be a buddy buster. Chloe Godby, Laird's girlfriend and recent winner of the Women's Scottish Amateur, explains.
I knew when the match play draw came out that if himself and Andrew both won their first round match, they would have met each other, which already you're thinking, oh, that's unfortunate, because you really don't want them to meet. I'm great friends with Andrew as well. So we saw that would happen. And obviously, unfortunately, Andrew lost his first round match, but it was great that he could then, for him to offer to stay and caddy for Laird. I'm not sure he knew quite how long he was getting in for, but he, that was so nice of him to offer to stay up there and caddy. And I think it was nicer for me knowing that he had Andrew there on the bag.
Meet Andrew Davidson, winner of the Welsh Open in 2019.
We were staying with each other, so the night before we knew that if we both won, we'd play each other, which was actually weird because we played the British Amateur last year, and if the same thing happened, we would have played each other again, like the last year, but we both got beat last year in the first round. I ended up getting beat in the first round. And we had the place for the next night. So I was like, well, I'll just stay up tomorrow, and if you want me to caddy, then I'll caddy tomorrow and see what happens. Not really thinking anything of it at the time. I was like, well, I'm going to be here, so I might as well. I would usually come home in anger, actually. So I'm quite surprised I've stayed.
Andrew Nee of Scotland is ranked 538th in the world.
Andrew, my caddy, said, when we turn up tomorrow on the first tee, this guy's going to be thinking, wait a minute, I got rid of you yesterday.
I said that to Laird. He'd be like, what's going on here? I got rid of him yesterday. He's back again. But I knew, I don't know if you're going to mute this in, but I just knew that Laird was probably going to beat the guy, because the guy played well against me, but I just had a feeling that Laird would be beating him. So I was like, well, if he gets through him, then there's another guy dispatched. Let's see what happens in the next round.
No, it was good. And, I know that Andrew Nee had played well to beat my friend the day before. So, I knew what was coming, and thankful to got that job done again, relatively stress-free. So
Shepard beat Nee 2-1, which, for those of you who don't understand match play scoring, that basically means Shepard was up 2 holes, there was only 1 hole to play, game over. Which brings us to the round of 16. His opponent was Aaron Edwards-Hill. At 240th in the World Amateur Rankings, Edwards-Hill has 3 wins in the last 2 years.
I knew he's in an England golf squad, so he's in a national squad, so he's a good player. He's a guy that I'd seen his name around, but hadn't ever met him before. But great player. I probably that was probably the best match I played all week. I did not miss a shot. I was saying to my caddy, it was like playing a computer game. We'd say, I'm going to hit this shot on this target and I'm going to bend it 5 yards this direction, and I'd do it. And I just played really solid and didn't really ever give Aaron a chance to get back in the match. So ended up winning on the 15th. And
just like tee to green, it was just like an absolute stripe show. The guy he was playing must have felt like a little kid, to be honest.
Shepard beats Edwards-Hill 4-3, and now they need to scramble to find another place to stay. Shepard and Davidson stayed in 4 different places that week. On Thursday night, they stayed with Dean Robertson, their coach from Stirling, who had been in town for the first few days of the amateur. Robertson not only knew Shepard's game, he knows the game. Winner of the '99 Italian Open, he has brought Sterling to another level of excellence.
His pep talks basically include telling you how good you are, and that usually works coming from someone who knows what they're talking about. And I knew when he was watching me play, he was thinking, this is what I remember. This guy being like, I did just play so well that match on Thursday afternoon, and that filled me a lot of confidence. It was quite nice to sort of take a trip down memory lane and pretend like I'm still at university, and Dean helped me out with a place to stay and some very wise words and how I was going to go and best tackle the next few days. So,
meanwhile, Chloe was in St. Andrews trying to figure out when she makes the trip up north.
On the Thursday evening, I think it must have been, or early on the Friday morning, and he was like, I don't want you to come up and not see a lot of golf. If you only get up there, halfway through the morning match, and if I lose, then you might only see like 9 holes of golf or whatever. And I was like, obviously I want to be there if he's in the semis. And it was kind of a difficult one because it is like a 3-hour drive from here in St. Andrews. So he said, I'd just leave it till tomorrow. If I make the final, come and watch. And I thought, okay, he said that, so I'll just leave him to it.
She left him to Sam Bairstow, another Englishman who won twice since 2019 and is ranked 122nd in the world of amateurs.
Okay, I mean, Sam is a really nice guy. I think with match play, it's usually helpful if you're playing someone that isn't a nice guy, because it just sort of fires you up a little bit, or I don't know. It's just there's less sort of there's less emotion there. You just want to beat them badly, but obviously I wanted to beat Sam, but he's a nice guy. Great player. He yesterday, I think it was, he qualified for the Open through finals qualifying. He shot 9 under, 5 under or something. He a great player. So I mean, I was 3 down early in that match, and was maybe looking at going 4 down through 6, and that would have been a tough battle, but ended up coming back. And sort of being all square after, I think it was 10, 11 holes, and it was very tight from there on in, and then just managed to basically squeeze the last hole with a par and get through. And the more stuff that happened like that week, the more I thought that maybe this is sort of like meant to be.
Oh, he's back. That's what I was thinking, really. I was like, oh, looks like the game's back now. Didn't really say anything to him, but I was thinking in my head, I was like, if he keeps playing like that, then there's no reason as to why this can't happen. Like, I was thinking that. Like, I'm not just saying that. Like, I was thinking you've got a great chance with the way he was hitting it.
And by that time, you are fatiguing as well. You've played a lot of golf, and it's something that you always talk about, but obviously only people that get that far really know what it's like to have got 7, 8 rounds already done that week, and you're still battling, and every match is more important, and every match has got more sort of weight to it. So just to slip through on 18 there was huge. Yeah,
Shepard was starting to believe again, not just in his play, but in the idea that he could win.
I think just the way I was playing was the most fulfilling bit, because I was playing under a bit of pressure, and I was playing well, and I was proving to myself that these skills haven't left me. I've still got the ability to do what I need to do. And every time I call my parents after I won and talk to them about the match, I'd say they'd be getting happy, because they know how much I've been through. My mum's getting sort of emotional, and I'm like, I've still got a match to play this afternoon, so we can't get too excited. We just got to go and play that match. And I think that helped me sort of keep feet on the ground, and it was a blessing. So
Shepard has played practice rounds, 2 stroke play qualifiers. He has won 4 matches, and he's down to the semifinal match on Friday afternoon. The man between Shepard and the final is Jack Dyer.
I mean, Jack, obviously he played Walker Cup in May. I think he won a singles match as well. So don't hold me to that, but I think he did. But great player, really solid player. He played in the event at St George's I played last year, and he won by 6-7 shots. So, I knew this guy was serious. So, it was fun to go and play against someone who's obviously playing very well. And I think he was second qualifier as well. So he was clearly playing great.
Dyer of England did, in fact, win a singles match at the Walker Cup at Seminole earlier this year. He beat Tyler Strafacci, who won the 2020 U.S. Amateur at Bandon Dunes and the North and South at Pinehurst. Needless to say, Dyer was a favorite.
And it was, a tight match, but I sort of clutched up down 18 and did something that I'd probably never really done before. And for me, that was prove to myself that I was clutch. I had to know how you put, that into better terminology, but proving to myself that, when you need to just stand up there and hit a great golf shot, that I could accept the repercussions of just sort of putting it all on the line. And
yeah, Laird played well that round. He could have easily won, I don't know, 4-3, 5-4, but I think just the pressure of the situation got to him a wee bit, and he was making some silly mistakes. And they were all square going down 18 again. And there's a bit of a story here.
Jack had hit 2-iron off the tee because there's bunkers just perfectly at driver distance. So he did 2-iron, and I knew that he'd had to then lay up from where he was, so he'd then laid up. I'd hit driver, and I purposely tried to hit it left of the left bunker, so basically into the rough. I mean, it wasn't that thick. It was sort of, you could catch a decent lie and gamble on that, and fortunately did get a decent lie. So,
and Jack laid up in 2, and Laird had like 277. He said, I think he lasered it, and it was like 220 over a bunker into the wind out of rough.
My caddy though was still telling me to lay up. He didn't like 3 without the rough, but it was sitting okay, and I just saw a shot that I knew I could pull off, and
I was like, oh, do you want to just lay up here, like short of the bunker, and take your chance for the wedge? And he's like, no. He's like, no, I'm just gonna go for it. I've just got to stand up. He said, I've just got to stand up and just hit a good shot. You've got to take this chance when it's here. And I was like, well, fair enough. And I was like, right, just make sure you hit a good one. I couldn't even watch the shot because I was kind of like, I'm going to be so annoyed if he makes a mess of this now. It's like, if he just gets the hole, because the way it was lying in the rough, like it wasn't a given there. It was just going to come out like the way it did. And it was probably a shot of the tournament, I would say.
I mean, that's the best probably golf shot I've ever hit. Under that sort of pressure. That was pretty cool. And I was sort of walking after it, and my caddy was having a go at me because he's like, you need to calm down, so you need to come back to the bag and take a sip of water, and he didn't let me take my putter out until we got to the green. So
oh yeah, he was like running down the fairway. I was like, where are you going? It's like, where are you off to here? He's like, give me the putter. I'm like, no, just take your water and just calm down. Because I don't know if he told you, but he was extremely, extremely nervous. And all the way around, I was like, you just need to calm and just take breaths, like deep breaths. Like he was struggling to like, I thought he was going to be sick with nerves. And I think after he hit that, it was almost like the pinnacle of the nerves just exploded. And it was like, oh my God. He was like sprinting down the fairway, and it was like a dog on a leash. I was like, get back here. It's like, calm down. Yeah, so it's quite funny.
That was very fulfilling. And that almost was enough for me that week. Hitting that 3-wood onto the last green and winning the last hole. That was sort of enough for me. Like if I lost the final, at least I'd done something pretty cool, because that was an amazing shot, and when I needed to, and prove to myself that, hey, something that you worried about is not thinking that maybe you had it in you to do it when you needed to. And I certainly sort of proved that to myself on that golf shot. So that was pretty cool.
So now he's in the final match, and his opponent, Monty Scowsill, who's also English, is someone who he's very familiar with.
It was difficult, mainly because I knew Monty. He is a friend of mine, and I don't just say that because we ended up playing each other. We shared a hotel room in Bahrain when we went and played a golf tournament there in the end of 2019, and we played a lot of university golf together because he went to Exeter, and so we ended up playing a lot of tournaments together. And
Monty Scowsill of Suffolk, as Laird said, attended University of Exeter, where he was the captain of his team.
Hello.
Monty.
Hi, Matt.
Matt Ginella here. How are you?
Good, thank you. How are you?
Pleasure meeting you. Thank you so much for taking some time and sharing your side of the story here.
Yeah, no worries. Thanks for having me on.
He's about a year older than Laird, came in ranked even higher than Shepard, and has had his own set of health challenges and circumstances that have provided perspective for such a young life.
When I was about 5 years old, I had a nasty illness called Sydenham's career, which was a bacterial infection that attacked my brain. And I actually lost control of the left side of my body for quite a while. They couldn't really work out what it was, the doctors here in the UK, and they thought it might have been a stroke or maybe a brain hemorrhage or something along those lines, which was pretty scary for my parents at the time, obviously. And it wasn't until an Indian doctor came along and identified what it was, which was Sydenham's career. They have a lot of cases over in India, but it's not very common here in the UK or in more developed countries. So that basically meant I had to be on penicillin for until I was 18, actually, as it's a childhood illness. So, even to this day, if I'm ill, I tend to have quite a sort of shaky or sore left side of the body. But fortunately, it hasn't affected any of my sort of, sort of sequencing or, neurological pathways to my body. So
I spoke to Jeremy Scowsill, Monty's father, who's a lawyer in England.
He turned out to be fine. His heart was fine. But clearly, as you can imagine, as a father yourself, how distressing it was at the time. But he was amazing as a patient, actually, Matt, at the time. He was we couldn't have been prouder of it then. All sorts of medical things that had to be done to him. And I used to cringe and sort of, needing to turn away sometimes. But he just went through it all with, his smiling sort of, in a smiling way, and said, "I'll be all right, Dad. I'll be all right, Mum."
Like Shepard, Monty Scowsill is an ambitious self-starter with a determined work ethic.
It's absolutely him. I never have to tell him to do anything. He goes to the range. We're fortunate enough we have a little swing studio up in our roof at home here, and he's up there pretty much every day. He's in the gym pretty much every day, and he's out in the golf course. During lockdown with the COVID and what have you, he was having lessons by video with his coach. I've never actually had to push him to do anything. It's very much in him. He just wants to do it. He wants to get better.
It's a funny one because my dad, he still works full time, and he tries to take off a couple of weeks to come and support me at big championships like the amateur or the English amateur or those sorts of tournaments. And he's caddied for me before, but quite unsuccessfully at times. We haven't necessarily seen eye to eye out there. Various occasions where things have happened. He's passed me the putter head cover rather than the actual putter, and all sorts of stuff like that.
What I said to him about 3 weeks ago, I said, "I will caddy for you at the British Am, and I will get rid of all distractions." I literally left work and said, "I'm not contacting anybody." And so for the whole week, I was actually 100% there. And I think that's what he needed. And that's what I think with the distractions taken out of my life, it enabled me to really concentrate on being a good caddy for him.
And he was brilliant out there. It was great having his support, especially in the early rounds where the guys I were playing didn't have a caddy, or they necessarily, because of COVID restrictions, they didn't have anyone watching. So having that presence of him there, I think actually really helped. And he was great at, talking through different shots. And ultimately at match play, it's all about just keeping the pressure on your opponent. And with him there, I felt that I was able to do that, pretty well.
I asked Monty for some memories of Laird Shepherd.
So the first time I met Laird, he was at Stirling University. I was at Exeter. We had a knockout match. So it was match play, 6 of their best against 6 of ours. And at the time, they had a very, they were by far the best team in the UK. They had a number of players on their team who've not since played Walker Cup and are on the Challenge and European Tour. And actually, I got drawn against Laird to play against him. And I was in my second year at the time at Exeter, and he was in his first year. And I knew nothing about him, but all I know is that he was brilliant at golf. I think he was 6 up with 6 to play, and I think I lost 2-1 in the end. But he was very, very talented. I could tell he was a good player, but also a really nice guy. And that was actually the first time I met him. So that must have been 2015, I guess. So about 6 years ago.
Worth noting, Laird once had a 6-hole lead over Monty and almost lost it.
He really did dominate university golf over here for basically his all 4 years that he was at Stirling. And I was just, looked up to him and thought, okay, what does he do well? And kind of learned from him, actually, because he was such a good player, and to play with him was great to watch. So he was someone I really looked up to, actually.
Monty also reflected on their time together in Bahrain.
It was just funny just going back there. He may have told you, but we shared a hotel room in Bahrain for a tournament at the end of 2019. And I remember he was, we spoke about his injuries, and, we chatted a lot, and he'd be up in the morning just with the massage gun, just an hour in the morning before he played, just drilling the side of his hip and his knee. And I was like, man, this guy, he's dedicated to, get back on and get through these injuries.
So now these two guys are on the beaches of Nairn doing media on the eve of the Amateur Championship Finals.
I said to him, back when we were sharing that hotel room, would you ever have thought this was going to happen? And, obviously none of us really expected what was happening, and just surreal. It was surreal. So that made it more difficult, because you allow yourself to sort of share the emotion of being surprised, where if it was someone you didn't know as well, you try and play it a bit more cool, but we both know how each other were feeling. So
to be in that position, we sat on the beach with the RNA doing some media for us. We just sort of looked at each other and thought, this is just crazy. I could tell in his face and mine, we couldn't get over it. And it was almost a sense of, wow, we've achieved something great this week, regardless of what happens tomorrow. We've both done incredible thing this week. And there was this overriding sense of kind of pride that we got there, and all the hard work to get to that position had paid off, I guess.
So both have talent, determination, and a work ethic, and they're both undefeated. So as the Nairn beaches cleared of the competitors, cameras, and questions, Dougie Donnelly, a Scottish broadcaster who called the live stream for the RNA, reflects on the night before the final.
We know they're good players, of course they are, but I think for me it was, how are they going to cope with this? Because they've not been at this level before. And there's so much at stake, not just to win this wonderful trophy, which Bobby Jones won, for goodness sake, in 1930. And we've had any number of some of the greats of the game who went on to great professional careers, both in the States and in Europe. So it was a sense of they could win this wonderful trophy, put their name up there with Sergio Garcia and Jose Maria Olazabal and all of the others, and then get to play in the Open Championship, get to play in the US Open, and get to play in the Masters. I mean, for a 23-year-old kid, who's just making his way in the game, I don't know how you sleep at night. I mean, it's everybody says you've got to put that out of your mind and just play the shot. Hey, easy to say, isn't it?
Checking in with Team Monty Scowsill.
After the semi-final, actually, we didn't have anywhere to stay, so we had to go and find somewhere to go and stay. But when we found that, then we largely went there, had a takeaway piece, and we went to bed. But I think none of us slept particularly well. I think the nerves were beginning to kick in at that stage, or what the next day was going to produce. And I'm sure Laird went through exactly the same. In fact, I know he did. I don't think he slept very well, and Monty didn't sleep very well. But I think that's probably quite normal.
I got to sleep pretty early, around 10 o'clock, and woke up, or must have been about 1 o'clock in the morning, and I was heart was beating out of my chest, and I was really, really nervous for the next morning, because it was a moment in my career I didn't quite expect to get to this quickly. But it was also one that, I'd hope I get to quickly, but when you actually find yourself in that position, you're not prepared for it. You're never prepared for it. So I was so nervous. I went to my bag about 1 o'clock in the morning, flicked on the light, started chipping around my bedroom just to make sure I could still chip. It was bizarre. I couldn't believe it.
As for Team Laird Shepherd, family and friends were mobilizing, most notably his father, Stuart Shepard.
So I booked a flight, and then Friday comes and he wins in the morning. I said, right, we've got to leave for the airport, to Luton Airport, because I can't wait to find out whether he wins or not, because I'll miss the flight. So we set up on the car, leaving, we thought, plenty of time to get to Luton Airport, watching the scores, on the phone, actually getting inside information from Andy, the caddy, via Laird's girlfriend. So, the good news came through at whatever time it was that he's won. So we had just made the flight and got up there for the final.
His dad came up, and then we went for a drink or two with his dad, but Laird was like just in a different planet. It was like he couldn't keep still. Like he was just, you could just tell that everything was going through his head at that point, just like what could happen tomorrow.
I arrived at the bed and breakfast, which I'd booked for us all, and they were watching the England-Scotland soccer game. It's half time. And I basically said, I need a drink. The stress of today and travelling, I needed. And Andy goes, yeah, come on, Laird, let's go down the pub. It's just down the road, which we did. They had already eaten. And Laird had 2 pints of water, and Andy and I had 2 pints of beer. So I thought Laird was okay. With him, there's always a lot going on under the water.
I was trying my best that night to get some sleep and not think about all the things that might come. And I'd done a lot of meditation at the start of the year to try and deal with some sort of anxiety and stuff with my injuries. And I think that sort of helped maybe in that way, because you've got to realize that these thoughts going through your head, you can't stop them. There's no way of stopping them getting in there, but you just don't want to put weight on them. And but having said that, I probably slept for about 2 hours. I was very, very nervous. And in the morning, I woke up and I woke up like 2 in the morning, couldn't get back to sleep.
That morning, he got up early as well, and he headed to the course. I didn't even know he was away, and I was like, well, "What is he doing?" It's like, why is he away at the course already? I was like, "You must be," because it was fairly early tea time. There's no way he should have been at the course. He was at the course like probably close to 3 hours before the tea time. And I was like, that's just silly.
If we could have teed off straight from after the semi-finals, that would have been great. But woke up in the morning and went to the golf course really early because I just couldn't speak to anyone. I just was like, I need to just go and hit some balls and maybe that'll make me feel better, sort of thing. So
Chloe had made the trip early that morning. She was joined by her mom and her sister.
The alarm was definitely 4 something. Left and went straight up the road and got there before he teed off in the morning. So arrived in the car park and I could spotted him on the range warming up, hitting some shots. So went and said hello to him on the putting green before he headed out and stood there behind the first tee, not being able to breathe, I think, while he hit that first tee shot.
Welcome to the Melbourne Golf Club for the 126th Amateur Championship Final, which will be played between Monty Scowsill and Laird Shepherd.
I was struck, on the first tee, behind the first tee, there was a guy, and he turned to the guy he was with and said, I've been watching this Laird Shepherd. He's a real street fighter. I thought that was a pretty precedent thing to say in the circumstances. It actually needed to be.
I asked Mr. Scowsill for the mindset going into the final.
In essence, I said, look, there's just you and me out here. We're going to play good golf. And if we play good golf, we've got a chance of beating Laird. And that was the mentality we went in there with. There wasn't, we didn't decide to be particularly aggressive, but we felt that good golf was going to win out in the day.
My dad is my favourite person in the world to play golf with. If I could play with one person for the rest of my life, it would be my dad. We play a lot of golf together, and And he just said, me and you out there today. And he kept me really calm. And we picked our lines all week really well. And we just did the same thing on the first tee and, managed to strike that one down the middle. And from there on, we were just out there playing golf.
So, yeah, first round, I got off to a pretty nice start. It's surreal having cameras follow you, and there was quite a few of them because they were live streaming the final. And, on the first tee, you've got this camera in my face and didn't really know what to do, whether to smile into it and laugh or try and be serious.
On the first tee, kind of forgot that the TV cameras were on us and that we and Laird were speaking away, and we weren't sure if the cameras could hear what we were saying, so we were just talking away. And then next thing, the camera guy is literally in our face, and we're like, what? And we just both stopped speaking. It's we're like, all right. So we didn't know what to say to each other, so we just stopped speaking. And then.
So we're off and running. The opening tee shots in this 36-hole final.
The first few holes, the way they both played great for the first kind of 4 or 5 holes. Obviously Laird missed a couple of opportunities early on, but to start off with that type of ball striking, hit it straight down the middle on the first, both of them. Laird hit a great shot in, and
looks forward of the club. Normally a suggestion the player likes it, and so he should.
Slightly missed the opportunity, but I think it definitely settled my nerves anyway to see the way he was hitting the ball that morning. I'd dream of starting off like that if I was in a British Amateur final. So
one thing that I probably am is a bit of I love to show off, I love to show off my skills sort of thing, and I love playing in front of people. So I like the idea of people watching me play golf, and tried to put on a bit of a show and play some really nice stuff to start with, and was happy enough. Just sort of was missing putts here and there, and wasn't really getting the flat stick working. And then Monty made a bomb on the 5th, I think it was, to take the first hole, and he has a chip in on 6 from no man's land. My caddy said to me,
if Monty gets this up and down, I'm going in. Then Monty hit his shot. It's going towards the hole, and I'm like, oh my God.
Those injuries have knocked out so much of his time.
Oh my goodness me.
And then it went in the hole. He held the shot. I was like, oh, wow. And I just turned to Laird and went, well, at least I don't need to go in because he held it. So, so he lost that hole.
You start to think, well, things are going his way a little bit today. So that's kind of magic you need in that kind of final. So
I suppose you've got to expect stuff like that to happen when you're playing great players and stuff like that, because you can't afford to have that sort of few minutes of shock and then that affect your performance. But I just the way things went, I lost 3 holes in a row, and I wasn't putting very well. I probably could have been just 3 down if I probably putted any decently, but I didn't. And before you know it, making mistakes here and there, and Monty's hitting some good shots here and there, and obviously if that's an 18-hole match, it's finished by 13 or something. So
for the next whatever many holes, Laird was just trying to force the issue so much that he was just giving away holes for nothing really. Monty made a couple of pretty good putts. Monty's putting in the morning was brilliant. He didn't have a free putt.
Of course, what you do find in the amateur match play is that the pin positions are horrendous. And it's difficult to tell that from the television very often. You can't quite see how difficult they are. And they put them in situations where if you set up a stroke play competition with those pin positions, you'd have all the top pros would walk off because they would say, I'm not playing at a golf course like this. So to have scored as he did and to get as many birds as he did, he was playing exceptional golf. And yes, he probably played the best 18 he played all week, I would say.
Laird Shepard didn't make a birdie in the morning round. Monty Scowsill made 6.
The weird thing is, and I've said this to a lot of people since the final, is that when do you ever play a 36-hole match, against someone? Me and Laird had never done it. Unless you reach the final in one of these prestigious tournaments, you never play a 36-hole match. So obviously in the morning, if we played 18, I wouldn't have got 6 up. It would have been 5-4 or whatever the score was. So it was weird. I knew that I was playing well, and obviously Laird, was making some uncharacteristic mistakes. He wasn't putting well. He missed a few short putts, and that's golf. So I just kept focusing on my routines, kept focusing on the golf, and actually one of my key focuses was I said, well, I know that I'm playing well right now, and Laird isn't, and it's very important that I do try and make the most of this run that I'm on, because at some point he's going to come back at me.
Playing the 36-hole match was different. I mean, there's so many holes and so much time for momentum to sway that you don't really know what to think. So I didn't feel like I played that badly. I was just got to a stage when I was 4 or 5 down where I just started chasing and trying too hard to make up ground, and that's when you end up making mistakes. And was pretty deflated. I didn't have any adrenaline. I wasn't nervous because I was so far behind, and that's what sort of keeps you going when you've been playing that much golf, is the adrenaline. And I was sort of struggling to really concentrate and get some momentum.
It was like Monty played well, but Laird also gifted him holes, so it was just like a pile up of holes given away.
And the punishment continues.
Oh, it just kept kind of mounting, as it wasn't it? It was 5, 6, 7, and when he went 8 down, it was just watching him be kind of more and more deflated every time a putt just slid by. And I know he's a great putter, and he is a great putter. And one of the members said to me, "Oh, is this kind of typical of Laird? Great ball striking, just misses the putts." And I'm like, no, he's a great putter. We putt at practice together all the time. He beats me far too often, and putting's the strength of my game. So yeah, I think it was frustrating knowing that what he could have done had he kind of putted the way he usually does.
I had a putt on 16 actually to not go 8 down for 16, and I managed to hold it. But that was when the sort of first came into my head, like, we don't want this to be embarrassing, Laird. You need to try and win some holes, and no one wants to get beaten by a record-breaking score. And
the largest margin of victory in the rich history of the Amateur Championship was 1934 at Prestwick, where Lawson Little of America beat James Wallace of Scotland 14-13.
It started raining on the 18th tee in the morning. It hadn't rained all day, and I'm not sure if Monty just got like a wet club face or something like that. And anyway, he just sprayed. Worst shot of the day. He just put one out of bounds, which isn't really in play, but it probably is if you've got a wet club face.
And then fortunately he wins 18, but still, 7 down at lunch. Monty doesn't want lunch. He just wants to keep on playing. We're all thinking, hey, early finish today, guys. This will be over by, early afternoon.
To be honest, the break came at a terrible time for me. I was playing really well, and I had such a big lead. I just wanted to keep playing. And that break was strange because obviously all the other breaks that I'd had in the previous days, I was going into the afternoon all square, new match against a new opponent. So it was a complete reset. Whereas going into that afternoon session with a 7-up lead I found it really difficult actually. I did my normal warm up. I went to the range, just clipped a few wedges away, hit some putts. And then we teed off, but I did find it difficult to try and reset. I was also, fatigue was kicking in at this point. And I also realized, 7 up, like, God, this is mine to lose now.
Because pressure does crazy things. And Monty must have been eating over his lunch thinking, oh my God, I'm going all sorts of places here. I can't imagine what was going through his head at lunchtime. I don't know if he said or what, but it must have been a pretty surreal lunch hour.
Back to Laird's dad for his thoughts at the lunch break with his son 7 down.
Well, they say in soccer, if you can score just before half time, it's quite a boost to you when you start the second half. And also, just numerically, 7 is better than 8. But absolutely, you go in. He's won a hole. I've won a hole. I can win a hole. I haven't made a birdie yet, but I've won the hole. Yeah, I'm sure it was a big fillip for him. I mean, nonetheless, I have to confess a bit of doom and gloom over the sandwich at lunchtime. 7's a big ask, but better than 8. So yeah, I can see that that was a pivotal moment.
Me and Monty ate either end of the room. We didn't really choose to. Just that's where it happened. Sat down, and I think I wouldn't have had lunch with him because I was not in a good mood. So I just wanted to be on my own, and then Monty ended up going to hit some balls as well to warm up, to re-warm up. And by that stage, I was over it. I was like, I can't be bothered to go to the range. I'm just gonna sit here, and maybe I then sort of like, okay, I'll go and hit some putts because I was having trouble with some putting, and yeah, just sort of didn't really talk about a whole lot with my caddy, just chatting about anything really, and he was obviously still telling me that it was still to play for, and
Laird was pretty down at lunch, but I just said just got to put pressure on, see how Monty handles the pressure, and just see what happens. Just again, you've got nothing to lose now. I was like, everyone that's coming out to watch is going to be behind you. Nobody wants to see you getting thrashed. So if you start winning a few holes, then the whole crowd's going to be behind you, which adds to the pressure for Monty.
The lunchtime break, what to say was a tricky thing, I mean, I basically just said, I think as Laird said, I said, it's not over yet. He's won 7 holes on you in the morning. You can easily win 7 holes in the afternoon on him. So, but yeah, that was a tougher coaching, not father, rather, role.
Did you believe what you were saying?
The odds were obviously massively against it, but I did believe it was possible.
What'd you say?
Well, I obviously went over to him and I was trying to be the positive and motivational girlfriend, and I was like, right, come on, biggest comeback ever. And he's like, he was so deflated, and I think obviously the week was taking its toll on the both of them, and just all that kind of, every time he went another one down, I guess it just adds to that kind of weight on your shoulders. And I said, right, come on, biggest comeback ever, go and reset or something. And just that I did believe he could do it, but you're struggling to believe he can do it.
I know that she's travelled all the way up from St Andrews. It's like a 4-hour drive. And one of my dad's good friends, who I'm friends with as well, he'd taken a flight up from London to come and watch me, and he'd only got there for the 13th hole in the morning. And I actually walked past him on the second hole in the afternoon and tapped him on the shoulder and just said, Justin, I'm going to try and give you some more entertainment for the day. I'm trying to extend it as long as possible because you've come a long way, and hopefully I'll try and give you some good golf to watch. And that was they Chloe said it's never over, and she definitely believed in me. But my mindset was just trying to give the people that had bothered to come and see me play and give them some good golf to watch, and get some good highlights to watch on YouTube, even if I'd lost.
Regardless what anyone says to them at lunch, you're still 7 down. It doesn't I'm I've seen comebacks bigger than this, and I was like, well, you never know, but realistically, it's not going to happen. I didn't say that to him, but I mean, anyone would think that.
All right, it's halftime at Nairn. Scowsill is hitting balls. Shepard is hitting some putts, and the broadcast crew is making plans for the evening.
Yeah, and everyone was planning, hey, we're going to get home early. We're going to be out on Saturday night because this is going to be over early afternoon.
We were all just in cruise control. It was like, what hole's is going to finish?
Someone once said that you have to be your strongest when you're feeling at your weakest. Remember the Patriots were down 28-3 at halftime of the Super Bowl? Bills were down 35-3 to the Oilers. Red Sox were down 3-0 to the Yankees. And in 2 of his 3 U.S. amateur wins, Tiger Woods was 5 down with 16 to play against Steve Scott and 5 down with 12 to play against Trip Keeney. But he was Tiger freaking Woods.
I mean, it's going to have to be a run of golf from Laird Shepherd, and it's amazing what pressure can do. It's amazing how momentum can work, and if he can just start chipping away at that lead, there's still 18 holes to go, it's not impossible.
But it's virtually impossible. I think we all know that, but we wish Laird well. We wish both players well, of course.
If you're just joining us, we're about to tee off on the first tee at Nairn Golf Club in Scotland. It's a Saturday afternoon in mid-June. It's the finals of the 126th playing of the British Amateur Championship, in which 2 underdogs, who've both overcome adversity and physical issues getting here, are about to finish things off. Monty Scowsill, who made 6 birdies in the morning, is 7 up on Laird Shepherd, who didn't make any birdies and didn't win his first hole of the day until the last hole of the morning round, which made for a somber sandwich. In part 1 of this podcast, you get the backstory on why it's so remarkable they're both playing golf at a competitive level.
I hit about 5 or 6 shots. It was very, very cold, obviously, in January in St Andrews, but hit 5 or 6 shots and just chucked my club about 50 yards into some rough and walked back to my car. And I was pretty upset. I just said to my girlfriend, like, I'm not very good at anything else. So it's kind of scary thinking you spent 5, 6 years of your life pursuing something that ultimately turns out, potentially not to be.
In part 2 of this podcast, it's the first 18 holes of this match, in which Monty and Laird, who've been friends for years, are embarking on a journey that, win or lose, it could alter the course of their lives forever.
So I was so nervous. I went to my bag about 1 o'clock in the morning, flicked on the light, started chipping around my bedroom just to make sure I could still chip. It was bizarre. I couldn't believe it.
18 holes in, it was Monty Scowsill 7 up as they took a break for lunch. Low on sleep and both barely able to eat, they try to reset for the war of attrition that is the Amateur Championship. They're about to play their 9th competitive round in 5 days. We start with Monty's dad, Jeremy Scowsill, who has carried his son's bag all week. He seemed to have a good strategy for how Monty, again, 7 up, could get the victory and all that goes with that title.
Well, the mindset actually was to start again and actually say, we want to win this. We want to win this match again. So we look to forget about everything that happened in the morning. Start afresh. We're level par. And I suppose the thinking was that if we did that and we played good golf again in the afternoon, then the chances are that at some stage we would get over the line.
Meanwhile, Laird Shepard is finding some motivation in what he was hearing from the gallery.
Yeah, first hole, I hit my drive a little bit right, and someone behind the tee decides to start screaming forward, despite the fact it's not heading towards anyone. And that annoyed me a little bit, and I tend to play a bit better if I'm a bit annoyed. So I'd actually asked my caddy as well to get me a big black coffee, which I never usually would drink if I'm playing golf because you get a bit jittery.
And then I was like, oh, do you want a coffee? And he's like, yeah, why not? Because he was so relaxed, because it's over. And so he had a coffee and we're playing the first hole. I'm carrying his coffee when he's hitting the shots and that. And,
I played solid the first few holes. I knew I needed to get off to a hot start. Didn't get it and thought, well, let's just keep grinding away. Maybe win a few holes and reduce the deficit or whatever. And
he played the first few holes pretty good. Just didn't get any. Had a couple of chances, just didn't manage to get it. And we got to the 5th hole, and that's when it changed in the morning. It's actually quite strange that, because that's when it went downhill in the morning, and then in the afternoon, decided to hit driver there, and he hit a bomb drive just into the greenside bunker, and that's just when it all changed. He hit the bunker shot close, managed to hold his first putt really of the round, or like of the day.
He ended up having a bit of a change of strategy on the 5th hole. I ended up nearly knocking it on the green, making a birdie, and just ended up sort of picking up holes here and there after that. I think on the 8th, I made birdie to win a hole to get back to 5 down, and then hold a nice sort of 20-footer on 9 to get back to 4. And I said to my caddy after that, I was like, I wish I hadn't had that coffee now, because I'm starting to feel a bit of nerves again. I needed a bit of nerves, but it's a bit sort of jittery as well, because I had all the caffeine, and I hadn't been able to eat that much just because I was so nervous that it had just, gone straight to me. So I was a bit shaky, and I was like, oh, what have I done?
This is when the coffee comes in. He's like, I've got the jitters, like coffee jitters. I was like, oh no. I was like, and then he hold the putt, and I was like, well, maybe that's better then. That's like, maybe it works.
Meanwhile, maybe it was Monty who might have needed a coffee.
I think I could sit here and say, I wasn't thinking about how many holes were left. I was doing all the calculations on every hole. I was like, okay, I'm 6 up, 12 to play or whatever, 13 to play, keep halving holes, keep trying to win the odd hole. But that was difficult to do because Laird started playing a lot better. And my game, I didn't hit many fairways in the afternoon. I got out of position a bit. And suddenly, rather than being on the front foot in the morning making birdies, I was sort of, scrambling for pars a bit more. And that's a difficult, when you're out there and things aren't quite going your way, as every golfer knows that feeling. It's sometimes very difficult to turn it around.
Coffee wasn't the only thing Shepard was inadvertently experimenting with.
When you look back on it, it's crazy that you do some things when you're you think you're completely out of it, and you end up doing things you'd never usually do in the biggest day of your life. I mean, my girlfriend was having a go at me because I put on brand new golf shoes for the final. And she was like, "What are you doing? That's crazy."
You're going to be hearing you all day squeaking about with your brand new shoes. And I was like, how silly are you? Imagine you get blisters as well. I was like, we need to put a pair of shoes in the back. They didn't do it, but in case they were giving them blisters on the way around.
All right, back to the action. Stuart Shepard, Laird's dad, reflects on the front 9.
We needed to win 1 or 2 of the first few holes. Didn't happen. So at that point, I'm thinking it's really just a damage limitation exercise. But as you said, he wins 5, and then he wins, if I remember, 8 and 9 to get it to 4. I think, okay, he's now got the momentum, the big M word, and 4 with 9. That's certainly become more realistic and doable.
Yeah, that point, 4 down after 9 in the afternoon, it is looking challenging, but at least we've got some back. And like Laird said, he just wanted it to be respectable, not he was more thinking he just didn't want to be beaten by the biggest margin in history. So
end up having a good putt to then win another hole on 10 and just missed out, and then hit a bad tee shot on 11 and plugged it in the front bunker, and just thought, well, this really isn't what I need to be doing right now. So lost that hole, and then you're back to 5 down with 6-7 to play, I think it was, which is not really a great position to be in.
He made bogey there, and Monty won the hole back, so he's now 5 down with 7 to go. And that's just, again, that's almost back to being 7 down on the first tee. You're like, well, although I wasn't even thinking that it wasn't possible.
And then when he lost, I think par 3 11th, I think it was, to go back to 5, I thought, well, that is, the hope is gone. It's back to damage limitation.
And in terms of a point where you start thinking it's not looking possible anymore, for me, that was I thought he couldn't afford to lose that one. He worked so hard to get it back to 4, and then to just lose one straight away back to go back to 5 down. And like you say, with the sand running out of the timer, I remember saying to my sister, and she's not a golfer, and she said something like, "Oh, you can still do it." And I think I literally said he's just running out of holes.
So Laird won the 9th to take it to four down with 9 to play, and I, obviously knew it was far from over at that point. But we halved the 10th, and I won the 11th to go to 5 up with 7 to play, and that really calmed me down.
That was a time when I felt, because clearly things were a little bit on the slide, but I thought if we could when we got that one back, I felt that was really quite important. That he managed to get that one back. Because that sort of took the momentum was with Laird at that time. And as you know, match play can be very easily a game of momentum.
Laird Shepherd had lost the 11th hole, but he came right back and won the 12th. We're back to Monty for his commentary.
And the very tough 12th hole, I think probably the toughest on the course, he won that one with a great par putt to go back to 4. So even though 4 down, 6 to play, he's probably still thinking, it's not going to be my day. But that stretching, that sort of closing stretch at Nairn is brilliant for match play. Because there's a drivable par 4, there's a really long par 3, there's a par 5 in there, there's a couple of birdie chances if you get your drive away. So it's a brilliant stretch for what, and proved to be a good end to the final if you're a neutral viewer.
The 12th hole was probably, the way it was playing, was probably the hardest hole in the course. And he held a good putt for par there, so managed to get the hole back straight away, which was massive to get that back.
Do you know what? I think probably one of the keys for me was the 12th in the afternoon, because by that stage he'd got down to, I think it was at 5 down. Shepard had a really good putt at 12, and that got it back to 4 down with 6 to play. Now that's still heavy odds against. He's not going to do it, is he? But suddenly you've got a little sniff of a chance. So I think at 12, we all kind of looked at each other and said, hey, 4 down, 6 to play. You can feel the momentum just changing a little bit, and it becomes possible. Still unlikely, but possible.
I think the crowd were behind me just because I didn't want to see someone get beaten really badly. And I had a little Scottish flag on my bag from an event I played in the States, actually. I think that maybe got me some fans as well. But
I think I managed to recruit all the Nairn lady members as Laird Shepherd supporters on my way round, because they all asked, so who are you? And I said, oh, Laird Shepherd's girlfriend. And they're like, oh, come on, Laird. And I think the thing is, everyone just loves a story, don't they? And everyone, although obviously, I feel for Monty immensely, but everyone, I think, loved the story of Laird coming back because it was just so unbelievable. And, we had people who I met and spectating, just locals, saying, oh, he's practically Scottish with that name because he's like Laird Shepherd,
And I said that to Laird, kept saying it to him. I was like, everybody here wants you to win a hole, and every hole you're playing, just to try and get a game of it. Like, they don't want to just go home and just be like, oh, well done to Monty, like, which they probably would have been happy with, but everybody would want Laird to fight back and put up a good fight, which he was doing. To get that score back to being, if he'd lost 4 and 3, he'd have been like, well done in the afternoon. Like, you played well, you managed to make a game of it. But it's literally never over until it's over.
I never really thought after that I was going to lose. I never really thought about losing. I just thought I've got to use the fact that I am so far down to my advantage and just try and pile the pressure on. And, even at 4 down with 4 to play, I never thought, it's over.
It wasn't over, but it still wasn't looking good.
4 down, 4 to play at that point, yeah. To win 4 holes on the trot is unusual, I guess you could say. How often do you see that in match play and Ryder Cups and things? Like, I don't think you see that often, people winning 4 holes on the trot.
And he was standing on the 15th tee with his head against the tee marker, like, deflated, like, thinking, oh my God, this is over now.
And there's a picture that tells a story.
And I was like, Laird, come on. I was like, you're still on the tee here. Let's hit a good drive. He smashed one right down the pin over the back of the green. Monty didn't hit a great drive. I can't imagine the nerves that were going through Monty's body at that point, really, to be honest.
Hit a good drive on 15 just over the back of the green. He hit an average drive and chipped up to about 15 feet and missed the putt, and I ended up getting up and down. So then you're 3 down with 3 to play, hit a quality tee shot down 16 and put the pressure on, and Monty ended up hitting it a little bit right into some bushes and having to take a drop, and ended up, Monty still hold like a 20-footer for a 5 there. So he made me work to make my sort of 4.5, 5-footer for par on 16.
And 16, it's kind of a tough tee shot because the wind really picked up and it was into off the left. And for me, hitting a fade, that's not a wind I like. And Laird, stood up and hit a brilliant drive. And I put a really good swing on it as well. But as soon as I hit the ball, the wind really gusted and just kept knocking it right. Took a heavy bounce off the edge of the fairway into a gorse bush. And again, I didn't feel like I gave that hole to him. I made a really good bogey from a pretty impossible position, and he still had work to do for par. And in fairness to him, he made a good par.
So that's really when it all started to, all the nerves. That's when Laird started to get really nervous again. It was like, because it's on again. Like, you're only 2 down now with 2 to go. And it's like, Jesus, got a chance again.
So 17 is a pretty short par 4. There's a sort of a hazard that runs before the green, so you can't take it on with driver, but you just hit sort of 3-iron down the fairway, trying to keep it short of some fairway bunkers, and we both hit decent tee shots. And at that point, probably it started to pick up. The windiest it had been all day, and it was into the wind. Had 157 yards to the pin, and the green all slopes right to left. So, I actually ended up chipping a 6-iron in from that distance, which is a lot of club. And that kind of shot can be quite difficult when you are quite nervous, because you automatically want to go and hit something hard. It's just easier to do under pressure. But hit again, just a quality golf shot at the right time.
Can he put the pressure on his opponent? Oh, yes, he can.
Into about 5 feet, and then you just know he's thinking, oh my God, what's going on?
The shot he hit into 17 was one of my favourite shots he hit that day, because it was just so good, to hit that shot at that time. And I mean, Monty made a great up and down to put the pressure on Laird as well. So equally, there were so many points where Monty had a putt to win, or it could have been over for Laird, but he just managed to keep it going somehow.
I was still pretty calm at this point. Obviously I'd hoped I would have closed the match out by this point, but at the same time, I just kept saying to myself, just keep playing golf. Forget what's on the line, forget all that stuff. Just keep playing golf. Stick to your game plan, which has worked all week, and it's going to work again. And I made a superb putt down the hill on 17.
Well, Monty held a great putt, actually, going down the hill, and had a double break in it, which we had a long time looking at it, but he held it. And it did feel like that was a clutch punt. He had to make that, really.
He ended up making a great up and down. The end for his par left me with a slippery sort of 6 footer to keep it going. And I think I said this to someone else, but I think as humans, we work best when we know exactly what we need to do. And on those last holes, and that putt, for example, I had on 17, keep the match going. This needs to go in the hole. It's not like in stroke play where it's nice if this goes in the hole. It needs to go in, and that sort of made it easier for me. Just sort of, black out and just sort of go through the routine and just go, I've got to hit a quality putt and this has got to go in the hole and end up holing it. And, because you think if that was someone else and I was watching, I'd be like, oh my God, your hands must be shaking. I think Fenn said that to me, that were your hands shaking and, were you struggling to sort of keep composure? But I was very, very calm on the outside. On the inside, I was very excited, but I just had this sort of knowledge of this needs to go in, and that helped a lot in the last sort of 6 holes that we played that day. So
Laird still had to hold his birdie putt, and again it was a massive cheer. And you're walking to the 18th tee, going like, "Wow, how I managed to get to this tee and still have a chance is like crazy."
I have to say that I probably think walking to the 18th tee, I was 95% sure I was going to win the match, just because that the sort of situation with having a big lead and then being pegged back to going down the last hole, and that tee shot is a very difficult tee shot, especially if you're fighting a bit of a right miss. And I managed to get it up and play. It was just in the right sort of semi, but it was fine.
Once again, we hear from Laird's dad.
Even going up to 18, I wasn't thinking about him winning it. Maybe I wasn't allowing myself to think he could win it. I thought just the chances, the prospects. We've already produced a semi-miracle having got to the 18th. So, and then that was weird because Laird actually drove first and he hit it slightly right in the semi. It was fine. But his girlfriend Chloe came up. "Oh, he's just hit it a tree." I said, "No, that's Laird's ball there." And she suddenly goes, and we all go, because we didn't see it. It's so far back. So, well, it must be Monty who's hit the tree. So we suddenly thought, "Oh my God, we're maybe, just maybe we can get down the 37th." So yeah, she had complete terror look on her face when she thought it was Laird who'd hit the tree.
And I panicked because I thought that was Laird hitting, and I thought he topped it off the tee. Like, just one of those crazy things. I thought, "Oh no, that's it." And like, it was panic. It was definitely panic.
Laird hit his drive up the right, and it was nearly into the bushes. Couldn't really tell. Had to ask the referee if it was still in play, and the ref said yeah. And then Monty was taking a practice swing, and I don't know how he managed to do it, but he smashed his driver off the tee marker.
One more time today. Well, that's not going to do him any favours. He's just hit the sign. I hope that's not done any damage.
So he was kind of laughing, but you knew that it wasn't relaxed laugh, if you know what I mean.
No, it's another poor drive, I think. He's looking very anxiously after this one. What unexpected drama in this final of the R&A's Amateur Championship.
Again, Jeremy Scowsill, Monty's dad and caddy.
And then we had a slight incident on the 18th tee, which I'm sure you probably saw. He was actually looking to hit driver into the rough down the left-hand side, because having played the course all week, the rough down that side was actually not bad. And you also got the extra benefit of coming out quite hot out of the rough. And consequently, you could get more distance very often. So he was actually looking to try and get up to the green in 2 by deliberately going for the rough. It took me out of bounds, out of play. And he obviously didn't want to end up in the fairway bunkers. So it was a deliberate ploy, actually, to hit the ball down the left-hand side into the rough. And he then just had a bad swing.
Monty Scowsill had been up in this match since the 5th hole in the morning. He was 8 up with 19 to play, 5 up with 7 to play, 4 up with 4 to play. And now, with 1 hole left, his lead is 1.
Made a poor swing. It clipped the edge of the tree, fell down.
And went onto the path. The drive only went maybe 20 yards. I'm standing there going, "Oh, right, this is going to extra holes now," because you couldn't really see how Laird would make worse than a par from where it was. And then you're thinking, Monty's going to be struggling now for par. So,
well, you can see his ball there on the path. That's the front tee box to the left of him. So,
and that's in the penalty area and only just in bounds.
Made the same decision to hit the ball to the rough again because he felt that was the best way to get to the green in 2. And so, in fact, the people who were watching the crowd had to be moved back because we said that we're aiming to where they were all standing. And he hit a very good 2-iron actually into that rough. And as you say, he had a putt for a 5, which after the drive was probably didn't seem very likely.
How has Monty got this putt for 5? Like, I don't think people could maybe realise how good it was for Monty to, fair enough, he's done that, but also to compose himself and then hit those shots to give himself a reasonable chance for 5, was pretty impressive.
Well, I was standing by that putt, and I would say from a foot out, I would have I'd laid pretty heavy odds that was in the hole, bizarrely.
Oh, hit the hole but stays out.
If that had gone in, it's amazing how differently my, outlook would be, but ends up just slipping out, and then you're back down extra holes, and obviously I was the much happier person to be doing that. So,
oh, what a final this is! And after 36 holes, with at one stage Laird Shepherd being 8 down, it finishes all square. We're into extra holes.
You went from having no chance no chance to you're all square, and you're probably at that point the favourite to win again, because all the pressure's back on. It's just wow.
To be honest, Matt, I couldn't have hit a better putt. It was I hit it exactly where I wanted to, with the right speed, and it just slipped out. So yeah, it was a pretty stressful walk back to the first tee after those 4 holes.
Looking back at that, it's pretty cool. I think, and Monty would probably agree, to have the chance to play a sudden death playoff for everything that you get for winning the amateur championship is, I think you'd struggle to find a situation in golf, apart from maybe trying to win a major championship, that is more pressured than that, because it's very cliche, but it's sort of, it definitely does, whether you like it or not, change your life a little bit for that year that you are amateur champion, and to play a sudden death playoff, to get to go and play in the Open, and to play in the Masters, and play in the US Open and stuff is a high pressure environment, and it was pretty cool to just be a part of that.
For me and my dad were walking to the tee, and there were loads of people at this point and trying to get the trolley through and onto the tee. It was a nightmare. But I managed to calm myself down. And even though I'd obviously let my lead slip, like Laird said, I didn't feel like I handed it to him. It's not like I'd finished, with 4 double bogeys in a row. He played brilliantly, and I can't emphasize that enough. As I said earlier in our conversation, in a 36-hole match, both of you are going to have your run at some point, and he left his right till the end to have his, and he played beautifully under the pressure that he must have been under, especially on 17. When I hold that putt and hit him, he probably thought, his 8-9 footer looked a lot longer then.
And I remember the referee who was walking around with them announcing the scores after, Monty misses the putt on 18, on the 36th, and he announces the score, goes to extra holes, and I just said to him, bet you didn't think you'd be needing to say that. And he said no.
In my dad just, he just said, right, let's win this next hole. And my coach is in my ear saying, you've got this. My coach had flown up to watch, which was really nice. And he said, you've got this, come on, keep going. And the strange thing that I remember about walking to the first tee was feelings of oh, wow, you've really let this go. But also feelings of, I was here in the round of 16 where I messed up on 18 to win the match. I missed a 4-foot putt. And I said, you won that game. So I said, you're going to do the same again.
I was so nervous. I could barely speak to my caddy. I was trying to walk as slowly as possible and just trying to take some deep breaths and get the nervous energy out before each shot. But as soon as I got over the ball, I had this, that sort of was my calm place for the week, which is useful.
At the end of the day, looking at it as a 36-hole match, we were even after 36 holes against each other. So I thought to myself, just win the playoff, and that was my mindset. Forgot everything that had happened in the last 4 holes. I knew I'd been playing some good golf, just needed to make some good swings. And off we went down the first.
And you just cannot bring yourself to think that he's going to win this. It's just, what are the chances of that? But he had the momentum, obviously, going down the 37th. And despite trying to stop thinking about it, you're also thinking, well, it would be extraordinary now if he didn't win.
Kept telling him to breathe. I was like, just keep breathing. Like, he was extremely nervous, like basically having heart palpitations. Monty ended up not hitting a great drive, and he hit his second shot short of the green. So he maybe had like 40-yard chip or pitch or whatever you want to call it.
I hit a pretty decent drive. Monty hits it a little bit left, and then has to chop out of the rough just short of the green, and then you're sort of thinking, okay, here we go. My caddy actually told me after we finished that he gave me a number to the pin that was 5 yards shorter than what it actually was, but he didn't want me to go over the back with sort of the adrenaline and stuff, and it was a little short shot.
Laird actually had 76 yards to the flag, and at this point, well, I lasered the flag, so I knew the yardage. But you don't want to go long of that green. So I purposely told Laird a yardage that was short of the pin so that he wouldn't go long. And he left it like almost exactly on the yardage I told him, but it was like 6 yards short of the hole. And I was like, oh, that's perfect at the time.
Undercooked.
And then Monty hit a world-class pitch shot up to about a foot. So now I'm thinking, if Laird free puts this, I'm going to be fuming because I've told him the wrong yardage here. But he managed to put it up close.
So even in spite of 5 yards, Shepard made an easy par on the first playoff hole, while Scowsill successfully scrambled to extend the match.
I left myself a 50-yard pitch, and he knocked it onto the green to about 20 feet. So I thought, Jesus, this is going to be it. But again, one shot at a time, and probably, whatever happens in my career, whatever I go on to do with golf, one of the best shots I've ever hit in my life was the pitch into the first playoff hole under the pressure I was under.
Yeah, and coming back to my point, really, Matt, that I've always, his short game, generally, he did a lot of that during the week. And of course, it became apparent, particularly in the final. But he was doing that sort of shot quite a lot all week. And also his long putting was pretty good.
Scowsill's lag putting was, in fact, very good. At that point, he hadn't had a 3-putt all day. And standing on the tee of the second playoff hole, Laird still had honors.
A poor tee shot off the second extra. Monty hit a great tee shot. But even still then, I just thought, I don't know, something told me that you haven't come all this way to lose.
Checking back in with Laird's dad and girlfriend.
Basically, like probably most people my age, I tried the difficulty actually picking up the ball in the air. So I watched the swing and the reaction, then guides me where to look. And I just remember, my God, Laird was try to overhit that. He was so pumped. I mean, he hits the ball pretty hard, but he just slightly over put a bit too much effort into it. And
left. That's not good.
All I saw was the hand come off the club and signal left, and I just thought, oh no, like I again felt like that was it. He'd hit a poor tee shot out of position. Monty then hit a good tee shot, didn't he? And Laird had to punch out recovery. And again, even the recovery shot could have been one of the key shots for Laird, because he had to get it far enough up the right side that he had an angle to that pin, because it wasn't an easy pin.
Meanwhile, Scowsill thinks he hit one of his best tee shots of the day.
I must have pumped it 380 down there. Went straight for the tee peg. I saw it bounce in the middle of the fairway. It was quite a tight tee shot, that second hole. And I thought, sweet, I have a little wedge in my hand. I can get that close. And obviously with Laird in trouble, I don't know what his lie was like. I actually haven't seen it on any of the footage, but apparently it was okay, because there was a lot of heather from where I was standing on the fairway. There was a lot of heather around him, and heather obviously is not friendly for golfers. So he actually hit a very good shot, got it about 50 yards short right. But from there, I still thought, that's a tough up and down, and if I can just knock this on the green, 2 putts, I'm not going to lose the hole. But when I got to my ball, it was in the left semi, and to this day, I mean, I still don't know how it finished in the left semi. I haven't seen footage, but that ball bounced in the middle of the fairway, and it must have kicked hard left. And to finish in the left semi, and it was just sitting down a fraction and downwind with a short wedge, very difficult to a green which was sloping away from me, very difficult to control. And I was kind of in between shots, and the ball came out just so hot. Landed probably 30 foot beyond the pin, 20 foot beyond the pin, and just, no spin on it. Released onto the back edge of the green on the fringe.
So they probably weren't that far in distance, but Monty was like on the green, whereas Laird was short of the pin. And Laird had a cracking pitch shot up to maybe 5 foot, something like that.
Nice touch. Sit there.
Yeah, brilliantly played under the pressure.
Yeah, then to do that when he needed to, I think just shows great character. And again, like say, after being out of position, he needed to put it somewhere close to give himself a chance. So
Monty hadn't looked like 3-putting all day, no chance. And because his pace on the greens was brilliant, and he was holing out well, and he putted up to maybe they were fairly equal distance. Monty was just slightly. Monty must have been slightly closer than Laird. And I just said to Laird, like, just try and just put a good stroke on it and trust what you've been doing.
It probably was a case of whoever got to go first, and if they hold, that was going to be the winning putt.
When he holed, the pressure was obviously straight on me, and
all of a sudden the shorter one becomes that much longer. And it was also a little tricky. It was a tricky little left to righter, and consequently it was always going to be a tough putt. But I think it would have been much easier if Laird had missed his.
Yeah, and then it's down to Monty, isn't it?
Monty Scowsill has a putt to keep it alive.
He's been solid over those putts all day. Oh, not this time though.
I just turned to Laird and went, "Oh my God!"
And it ended up finishing on that green, and I couldn't really believe what had happened, but was very relieved for it to be over.
I just misread the putt a bit. I sort of hit it left edge and it didn't move, and it lipped out, and it really sad. It was a sad ending, and I think for everyone watching, it was probably one of those endings you wanted someone to hold a putt to win it, because it had been such a great final. So it's sort of a shame that it had to be ended by a missed putt. But that's golf.
That is one of the greatest comebacks you could ever ask to see.
It's what makes the game of golf and in match play so great, though, I think, is you get those little situations, and sometimes they work in your favour and sometimes they don't. But there was nothing to be disgraced about, and I think it was just the golfing gods weren't there for him on that particular moment, but they were for Laird, and great for him. Absolutely great for him.
Laird Shepherd, 8 down after 17 holes, 4 down with 4 to play. And in the end, it's the man from Sussex who comes through to become amateur champion at the 38th hole. And these two good friends can hardly believe what they have gone through today. It's the kind of final where you don't jump around, you don't punch the air, you're just so relieved and unbelieving.
It was like shock when it lipped out. Just mentally, I wasn't expecting that. And it was like an oh my goodness moment. He's only gone and won it. I just wasn't expecting to see that happen.
All the injuries, all the years of toil, all the emotions spill over, as you would understand at such a moment.
It's actually funny. I've reduced a few grown men to tears at that moment. And it was, I can't say it. It was just one of those situations where, I know Laird well, and knowing what he'd been through, if there was one other player in that field that I would have wanted to win that final, other than myself, it would have been Laird. And I was obviously distraught. There's no buttering it up. I was absolutely gutted. I'm as competitive as they come, and I wanted to win that final so badly. But at the end of the day, I think, my parents always taught me that, you try as hard as you can, but once it's over, whether you've won or you've lost, you you lose and win with grace, and you respect your opposition. And there was the great thing about the whole day was that there was such great respect between the both of us, and I think everyone picked up on that. There wasn't too many fist pumps and getting in each other's face, and the game was played in great spirit, and that's the beauty of golf, and that's how I believe it should be played. I think Laird thinks the same.
After we finished and was just going to sort of shake his hand, I honestly didn't have any words for him, and I just said, you played great, and I wish I could have maybe been a bit more, been able to say a bit more that made any sense at that point. But I just didn't know what to say. But obviously, I think that's as well a reason why I wasn't maybe outwardly, fist bumping and really happy that I'd won, because it just didn't seem appropriate. It was a real battle all day, and it was one of those situations where I think just like mutual respect for each other took over, and then the whole day it was played in such good spirits, and there was a lot of good goods in the morning and stuff, because going out for that second 18 as well, someone said to me, I can't remember who it was, but saying, "Oh, you're going to make him putt everything now," and because I needed to, and I think on the third hole we did good, and we were basically the same distance, like 3 feet, I think it was, and I said, "I'll just pick up and go to the next hole," and my caddy was sort of looking at me like, maybe you shouldn't have done that, and I said to him, I don't want to win. I don't want to win like that. If I want to earn it, and Monty deserves so much credit for how well he played, and he made it into a real battle, and so I think that was just what came out at the end. It was just giving him a hug and just going, mate, that was something, wasn't it? And it is difficult. You don't know what to say to someone when they've had that disappointment, and you've obviously had this success, and it's just it was difficult for both of us. We were both very emotional, and
if that was me in that situation, I would have been probably broken down, like in tears and stuff. And Monty was like, it was just, I couldn't believe that he managed to hold himself together. Like, he's an absolute gent. Like, the game was played in unbelievable spirits. There was both of them wanted each other to do well, and quite often you get games and you're playing somebody and you hit a good shot and they're like, oh, they don't say anything. But all day, everyone was like, yeah, good shot. Like, there was no, regardless who won, it was just a great day. Like, you would have been happy if Monty won. Obviously, me and Laird wanted Laird to win, and Monty and his dad wanted Monty to win. But if he got beat, or whoever got beat, like, you're still going to be happy for the other person winning, because the way the game was played and just the way they are off the course. Like, they're both nice people. Like, Monty's dad's brand new, and Monty's just, it's a good guy. But he held himself together, unbelievable.
What did he say to you when you hugged him?
I don't know, but I just said to him, "You're a British amateur champion," and I think there was too many tears from us both to really get any words out. And I remember saying to him, "You can smile now," because I think there was just so much shock and emotion. I think once I gave him a hug, he just collapsed. But yeah, it makes me emotional thinking about it, just because, like, it was kind of a powerful moment, I guess. And something that you dream of, being there, when he does something like that. So hopefully be there for many more to come. But yeah, I don't think he had many words anyway at that point.
I began to cry, to be honest. What an emotional pair we are. Chloe got in there first. Well, I think Andy got in there first, then Chloe. Yeah, then I marched on the green and gave him a hug, basically. I just seen something just incredible, really. I said to him after, I'll never see anything like that in my life again. That, not the winning of it, but the way you won it.
Not that I would ever say I feel sorry for Monty, because he doesn't need my sympathy. He's a great player in his own right. But to anyone watching, they'll know that he didn't just give it away. He holds some quality putts in 16 and 17 when the pressure was truly on. Even his up and down the first extra hole was just top draw. So I think he should be very, very proud of that, despite obviously what happened.
Monty played so great all day and such a great battle. I just cannot believe it, yeah.
And one of my good friends, after we'd finished, was phoning me, and he kept phoning me, so I thought, okay, I've got to answer this, and picked up, and it's like, what? Like down the phone, he just saying to me, what? And I said, I don't know. And he's just like, what just happened? Yeah, because he only checked the scores at half time, and
I saw some comments on the when they put the picture up of champion Laird Shepherd on their RNA social media, and some comments were like, wait, what? Like, how? And then they were like, someone's like, I'm gonna have to go back and watch live stream because I want to know what happened. And yeah, and it's just sport, isn't it? I mean, sport creates so many moments like those, and I think that's why we love it so much.
Yes, and that story he told of the dark days of January, standing in the range thinking that was it. His game had gone, his future plans had gone, he wouldn't be playing golf. To come back from there, and to come back from 8 down after 17, to be 4 down with 4 to play, and to win the amateur championship with all that entails, you just can't ask for a better story. Well done. Commiserations, Monty Scowsill. But Laird Shepherd is the amateur champion. What a fantastic victory. From all of us here at Nairn, thanks for your company. Bye for now.
Both Colt Nedler and I agree, as we've been doing these interviews and editing this podcast, there are so many lessons within this story. Overcoming adversity, obviously, determination, family, friendships, relationships, and sportsmanship still matter. These two young men, in both winning and losing, not only made us better players, but by getting to know them, we feel like we're better people. So we thank them for that. And before we get to part 4, where you'll get further reflections from the entire cast of characters, plus we have more about Laird Shepherd's future as an amateur and a pro, bad yardages, and who might be on the bag at Augusta, we'd like to thank Par Points for their support. The innovative app has given you an option as to how to score the game of golf. Download it now and go make par.
I've been lucky. I've done, not just in golf, I've been to 7 Olympic Games and soccer World Cups and all sorts of stuff in my career. All the Ryder Cups, all the Open Championships, all the Masters that I was lucky enough to attend. Great memories. I've been the luckiest guy in the world. But I tell you, we're up there, we're watching Tiger's first win at Augusta and my fellow Scot Paul Lawrie winning the Open at Carnoustie and all of the others. The Amateur Championship Final 2021 is absolutely up there as a day never to forget.
Wow. Again, all of these parts that we put together goes back to a features meeting the week of the U.S. Open. Colt Nedler chimes in with,
did you guys hear what happened at the British Amateur Championship? Wild.
A few days later, Colt had a day and time in which we'd get to Zoom with Laird Shepard from St. Andrews. Shepard gave us 2.5 hours, and we were down the rabbit hole of one of the most compelling stories I've ever tried to tell. 9 interviews included both competitors, their dads, a girlfriend. We heard from 2 announcers and Tom Bailey, who, over a chance encounter in December, set Shepard on a path to a life-altering adventure. If you're here, I can assume you've listened to all 3 parts of this podcast. Part 1 is the backstory to Laird Shepherd's life in golf, which included years of back pain and some knee surgeries. Chloe Godby, Laird's girlfriend of 3 years, has been there through the tough times.
There's some long winters over in Scotland here, so, dark nights, cold winters, and I think, spending days on end, we lived together one winter and at university, and just spending days in the flat where he can't go and play golf because of his knee, I think was probably some of the toughest times for him.
In part 2, Shepard gets in the amateur championship at Nairn as 30th alternate. We take you through the stroke play and the 5 matches that get Shepard into the finals.
I mean, that's the best probably golf shot I've ever hit under that sort of pressure. That was pretty cool. And I was sort of walking after it, and my caddy was having a go at me because he's like, you need to calm down. So you need to come back to the bag and take a sip of water. And he didn't let me take my putter out until we got to the green. So.
And in part 3, it's the last 18 holes of the final. Shepard starts the round 7 down to Monty Scowsill, a friend and worthy competitor who was playing an extended stretch of the best golf of his life.
That's exactly right. Like all those hours you put in, and as you know, golf is a strange game. You can put in all the hours in the world and you can shoot 80. And sometimes you don't play for a week and you shoot 65. It's a strange game. But you just hope that all the work you've put in will come good at some point. And for me, that's what that week was about. There haven't been too many tournaments in the past where I really gone through the whole week feeling like I had basically my A game or somewhere near my A game. But the amateur was one of those weeks. And I think that's given me such confidence that I can do that over such a long spell of golf. And, on the fitness side of things as well, it's 36 holes a day. And that sort of under that mental pressure as well. A lot of elements that got into being able to do something like that, during that week.
And before we get to what we consider part 4, which will include further reflections on back pain, bad yardage, clutch putts, the incredible comeback, and an inspiring display of sportsmanship, we just need to thank our friends at Linksole for their support. As you probably know by now, it's all I wear on and off the course. If John Ashworth makes it, I'm in it. And if you want to wear some of it as well, go to linksole.com, use promo code FIREPIT25, and enjoy a 25% discount on your next purchase. In this podcast, I'll be circling back with the cast of characters as they all reflect on what transpired at the Amateur Championship at Nairn Golf Club. We start with Stuart Shepard, Laird's father, who made the trip up and walked all 38 holes to watch his son become the amateur champion.
And one of the biggest things, obviously winning the amateur was huge, but the fact he managed to play 9 competitive rounds of golf and still be okay, and he's still, touch wood, okay, was, almost as much as winning the thing. We're hopeful, but there were some very dark days, to be fair. Just didn't think he had the structure to play the game.
Again, I keep going back to the fact that if Laird Shepard doesn't go home to his grandfather's funeral in December of 2020, if he doesn't bump into his buddy, Tom Bailey, what becomes of Laird Shepard the golfer? Here's Tom Bailey.
I think, let's be honest, that's unbelievable coming back from 8 down. But I think the biggest comeback is him being able to play. Yes, get into the final, but I think that would have worked out about 11 rounds of golf. I think he played that week, including the practice and all the holes he played. And to play all of that without pain, unbelievable. To win, big bonus. To get your Masters and your Open and the US Open, even bigger bonus.
One more time from Shepard's father, who has seen his son play a lot of great golf, but nothing quite like the home stretch on Saturday in Scotland.
There was like a man possessed for the last nine holes. I mean, he held everything. He had a look on his face. You never thought he was going to miss. When he needed a shot, the chip he hit at the par 4 15, to win the 15th. That was down slope up to the green. Just an incredibly good shot. I thought, wow. I mean, he's definitely on it. And the shot into 17, 3-4 feet, whatever it was, that was phenomenal. He just was on rails. So he just, it was just incredible to see.
Andrew Davidson is Laird's friend from University of Stirling, who lost in the first round of match play and then stayed to caddy for Shepard. I asked Davidson what he takes away from such a special week.
In amateur golf, he's achieved quite a lot, but he never really won anything. And he'd seen a few, like me and another friend of ours pretty close to him, win something like a few years ago. That probably gave him belief as well that it was possible. But winning the amateur championship compared to winning any of these other tournaments, which realistically aren't much different in strength, but winning the amateur championship is so much bigger than winning anything else. And I suppose what I take from it is just that you've just got to keep believing and literally just keep going, because you never know what can happen and what's around the corner. Golf's a crazy game. You can't win often at golf, but you just got to keep believing that it's possible and just keep trying. Like, that's literally what me and Laird kept saying, is just keep giving it your all. And as long as you do that, then what does it matter what happens at the end? It's just like, you might as well, like, you just got to keep trying and trying and trying. And I don't know, I suppose it's just belief is the main thing I take from it, I think.
Did you hear about Andrew giving Laird the wrong yardage on the first playoff hole purposely because he thought he didn't want Laird to gas it over the green?
No, I hadn't heard that one. Well, if that's so, he's definitely earned his non-fee.
I asked Chloe Godby, Laird's girlfriend and recent winner of the Women's Scottish Amateur, about Andrew purposely giving Laird bad yardage on the first playoff hole.
So Andrew told me this. I can't remember whether it was on our way back to the clubhouse after Laird had won, or whether, I can't remember when it was, but it was definitely before Laird knew about it. And Andy says to me, yeah, I told him that it was only 71 when it was actually 76. And I'm like, what? And he said, well, I just knew he'd be, adrenaline going, and you just can't go long with that pin. And I thought, yeah, that's a smart caddy move, but potentially could get you in trouble, that one. But that's hilarious. I couldn't believe he did that, and I just found it so funny. And
when did you tell him you told him the wrong yardage? After, I think.
I told him. I would never have told him ever. if he had lost, I would never have known. But
you would have taken that to your grave.
Oh yeah, no, I would have felt so bad. But at the time, it was definitely the right thing to do, because you're just piling the pressure on the other guy, because you know that Laird's probably not going to make bogey from there. So it's crazy.
You couldn't think of a better man to have on your bag in something like that, because he's so down to earth. He's a fantastic lad, and he's he did a great job. And I mean, he did a great job all week, because obviously he lost in the first round, and then took over Laird's bag. And every time I spoke to Laird, Andy's still there, isn't he? He's going to be there on Saturday, isn't he? You don't want to be doing this on your own. So he's brilliant.
Unfortunately, I can't caddy at the Open. I'm getting married the day after. Got it. So I can't caddy at the Open. Devastated. Because of the way COVID is up here, I couldn't risk going down and getting tracked and traced or whatever it is. So I've had to pass the boots over to someone else for that. But I'll be back in the game at the Masters.
Oh, really? Is that what's going to happen?
Yeah. I told him that it was in the small print the night before. But the night before the final, I was like, you win, by the way. I will be caddying there. It's like, whatever.
Laird Shepard's caddy at the Open Championship is James Wilson, another college teammate from the University of Stirling. The plan is, on Sunday, assuming Shepard makes the cut, Laird, Chloe, and James Wilson will all pile in a car and race off to Andrew's wedding. As for Mr. Shepard, he's still processing the benefits of Laird winning the amateur championship.
It's a gift that keeps giving, and I've always wanted to go to Augusta. We were there a few years ago at Aiken, because he went to look at a couple of universities to go to the States, and we went to Aiken. It was only half an hour from Augusta, and I thought it would be great just to look at the gates, but we didn't in the end, because I thought it was a bit pointless and frustrating. But I'd love to just go and see it. I'd love to have go to the Masters, but the thought of going to the Masters and watching your son play, God willing it happens, that's probably the most thing to come to terms with. But I mean, next week playing the Open is pretty special, because St George's is the nearest Open venue to where we live, and we both played there quite a lot. But the thought of going to the Masters is just extraordinary.
If you've listened to all three parts of this podcast, I'm guessing you can't help but root for Monty Scowsill to continue doing great things in life and golf.
I mean, obviously, I really wanted my name on that trophy, and it's hard. It's hard. The last couple of weeks, certainly the 2 days after, was really, really tough. Quite a few tears and just a bit of gentle sobbing. But actually, I woke up on the Tuesday morning and I thought, hey, if someone had offered me second place on the Monday morning as I was stepping on that first tee, heading into an absolute hurricane, I probably would have taken it. And certainly for my career going forward, this will hopefully open a few doors for me, but also just the confidence it's given me that I can really push forward in as this being my career. And it's something I've always sort of battled with myself. Are you good enough? Do you want it hard enough? And this has affirmed all of those sort of doubts to me that, yeah, I do. And this is gonna make me and not break me. And like you said, the runners-up list of guys who've gone on has been pretty impressive. So if I can, follow in their footsteps in any sense, then I'll hopefully have a great career. So overall, I mean, it was such a brilliant week, and I'm delighted for Laird. It couldn't have happened to a better guy, really couldn't. And all the opportunities coming his way. I just hope he brings me something back from Augusta, maybe like a flag or something. I don't know. I'll sort that with him. I'm sure he will.
They say apples don't fall very far from the tree. Well, when Monty Scowsill told me his father is his favorite person to play golf with, I lost it. I guess that's because I'm a fairly new dad, and that's every golfing father's dream.
Are you more proud of how he played in terms of his golf, or are you more proud in how he conducted himself as a sportsman and a class act when it was all said and done?
I think probably the latter. I think probably because that was the biggest test of all. I think he golf is something that he'll go back and he'll play lots more golf, and he'll hopefully get better and better. But I think on the biggest day of his golfing life, I think it was he showed a lot of he made a lot of friends that day in terms of everyone who was there who watched it. I think it was difficult amongst all the friends back home who were watching it. So several have written to us, and indeed, he's had some lovely notes from very senior people within the R&A who have written to say how impressed they were the way he handled himself, both on and off the course. And I'm not sure, he probably won't have told you, because we just received an email today from Nairn who have asked him to become an honorary member, which is a very, very special thing to have happened. So I think if anything, I can't help but think there's nothing you could be more proud about than have something as fabulous as that.
Needless to say, being impressed by young Scowsill's sportsmanship was unanimous.
For Monty to be able to, in the moment, put everything else aside and act like that, I mean, that just shows so much more about his character than anything will. And I mean, it couldn't have been better handled in that situation. You can't even imagine how you deal with that. And, the raw emotion, how do you, put that aside and actually be a sportsman and show respect for Laird? I mean, it was pretty incredible. And, Monty's a great guy, and, he's come through a lot as well. And he's really progressed in the last few years, having seen him play years ago. And, I think obviously, what it would have meant to him as well. It would have been life-changing for either of them. Yeah, I think for him to be that way was really special to Laird, and I think it meant a lot to him as well. So
thanks again to George Harper Jr., Doogie Donnelly, and the entire broadcast team who called the live stream for the R&A.
And wasn't the reaction of the two guys, Matt, absolutely wonderful? As you said, that they know each other, they're buddies, they've roomed together, all of that, but still there's one who feels like the bottom has dropped out of his world. The other guy just can't believe, hey, I've won the British Amateur Championship. But there was a genuinely warm hug between them, wasn't there? And that they'll stay buddies, of course they will. But But I just thought it summed up this wonderful game, that there is always that empathy between the contestants, isn't there?
I asked both dads to talk about the other son. This is Stuart Shepard on Monty Scowsill.
I think the pressure was having an effect, but you're right, he didn't give it away. I mean, the putts he held at 16 and 17 to make Laird hold his putts at 16 and 17 were just, heroic in the circumstances. No, he definitely didn't give it away. I mean, I don't know what his score was, 3 or 4 over the afternoon. So, it's not like he shot 80 something. I mean, you've seen people in that sort of position actually melt. I'm not going to name names, but, there's been people in that situation who have not been able to cope with the pressure. But no, Monty, I don't think that was Monty. I'm sure it had a little bit of an effect, but it wasn't a meltdown by any means, no.
Here's Jeremy Scowsill on Laird Shepherd.
It was tough because he had to hold a couple of good 10 foot putts that he held, which had he missed one of them would have ended up in him losing. So it was tremendous, and I dropped a little note afterwards and said that was that was really courageous and a fantastic comeback, and it was. I mean, he was really he was playing. They're both playing good golf, but Laird was playing exceptional golf under that sort of pressure, because there must have been a stage, and I know he went out after lunch thinking, well, I've got nothing to lose here. I just want to make sure that I'm not embarrassed. But there would have come a stage in his own mind, and I'm sure he's explained that to you, probably, Matt, that he would have thought, actually, I'm in with a chance here. Once he hit that frame mind, to continue playing the quality of golf that he did was pretty exceptional.
No, they're both very impressive, yeah. And the sportsmanship, the speed they played, great advert, I thought, and also they produced a bit of excitement as well. So all good. Stressful if you're closely involved, but happy ending.
And of course, some reflections from the reigning amateur champion, Laird Shepard.
Have you watched it all?
I watched almost all of it. I actually haven't watched the last 6 or 7 holes, but I watched the first 18, and that wasn't great watching. still thinking, how did I end up winning this match? Yeah, that'll be nice to be able to go and look back, and anytime you're struggling with your game or feeling a bit low, you can go back and see yourself performing under the greatest pressure. And I think that's what sport's all about. In the end, it's those pressure moments. Pressure builds diamonds. It molds you into who you are. And just thankful that it ended up going my way that day.
I asked Laird if he had reconnected with Monty since the amateur.
I said to him, I'm looking forward to hopefully playing with you in some England teams if we both get picked, which hopefully we do. And I'd love to play foursomes with you. And I'm a person who I don't have a big sort of wide group of friends or a wide sort of social group. I'm relatively introverted, and I find a lot of people annoying. I have no problem saying that, especially in golf. And I don't find a lot of people I can spend a lot of time with them and not get annoyed by them. But Monty is certainly one of the good guys. So for me, that's more important than anything. So.
We had a phone call, must have been last week at some point, end of last week. And just sharing our stories on how our weeks have been. And I think the thing we both said to each other was, dude, are you as knackered as I am? I mean, I don't think either of us got out of bed for 4 or 5 days. We were just shattered. The emotional, how draining it was emotionally and obviously physically on our bodies. So yeah, it was really nice to chat to him, and he was doing well, and he's sort of obviously getting prepped now for the Open and those opportunities coming his way. So yeah, it was really nice to chat, and actually we kind of said to each other, regardless of the result, to have shared that day together. It's certainly something that will, be in mine and his memory bank for the rest of our lives. And actually the fact both our families were there as well was super special. And that it's not something that actually many people get to experience, something of that magnitude. And we were just very grateful to have shared it together. And certainly it will bond us for life, I guess, as good friends.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. I remember I said, obviously, to my dad, actually, the evening after I won, I said, if I never do anything else in golf, that will do. That's pretty cool, isn't it? And I say that I've probably less of that mindset now because, it's always, I am who I am, and it's the next challenge and looking forward to the next thing. But you have got to also just think, that was pretty special. And having, the amount of people that have come up to me the last 2 weeks and just said, well done, because they've caught it on live stream. And that's been pretty weird as well. You feel like a celebrity almost, but I don't really know how to sort of go about dealing with that, because I'm certainly not, I'm not bothered about, anything else that comes with being good at golf apart from being good at golf. So, but it's fun, you've got doing stuff like this is all new as well, and being able to tell a little bit of my story has been fun. If just one person finds it interesting, then that's great for me. So, but no, it's all been really cool, different experiences, learning different skills. And if my future is not playing professional golf, then winning this tournament has probably taught me a lot of stuff that will help me away from that environment as well. So
to see him lift the amateur trophy was surreal, as the word you used earlier. It didn't see it coming. I mean, I was hopeful he would, progress in the last two tournaments, and I felt he really had the talent if his body would allow him to express it, as it were. But to go and win it, and in the circumstances, it was absolutely surreal, and it's changed his life in the last few weeks. The program that we sort of had set out for the year has gone out the window, as it were. As somebody said, once you win the amateur, you start playing professional events rather than amateur events. So it's changed that. But no, it's extremely proud of him.
I don't know how to put it. Like, he kind of said something along the lines of, if he never achieves anything else, no one can take that away from him, and that's something that he'll hold close, obviously, for a very long time. And obviously he hopes to do more in the game, and hopefully it will take him to new levels and with all these opportunities. But I think he kind of thinks like it was me that, like, he has to think like it was Laird Shepherd that did that, like that was me. I think he maybe feels like it was a different person, but it was all him. So yeah, to be a part of that experience was just amazing, and hopefully be a part of all the experiences that will come with it for him. And as we both look to turn professional in the coming years, I'm sure he'll gain experience in those majors that will put him in great stead.
My next event is the Open Championship, which sounds pretty crazy, but it's a golf course that I know very well, and I know that I have a big advantage on a lot of guys coming over to play, because amateur golf in the UK, you play a lot of links golf, and that's the 1 week a year a lot of those guys will be playing links golf, and so there's no reason that I can't have a decent showing. I'm not going to say achieve anything in particular, but just compete. There's no reason why I can't compete with those guys, and so I don't want to go in with this mindset of simply being happy to be there, because I know I'm very competitive, and I will make a pact to enjoy it whatever happens. But at the same time, it's a golf tournament, and you want to win, and or want to play well, and that's what I'll be trying to do, is just to play my best. So that's helped me sort of bring me back down to earth, I think, because it's not like I'm just continuing to play the same events. I'm now playing the best events in the world. So I've got to keep getting better at golf, otherwise I'm going to get left behind. So
Laird Shepard is one of 8 amateurs in the Open and is off on Thursday morning at 2:19 a.m. Eastern with Danny Willett and Dean Burmester.
Obviously, it's gonna massively help when the time comes that I turn pro, and I think that will probably be, after at some point at the end of next year after the US Open, and then I'd love to go over and play the US Amateur this year. It doesn't look like it's going to happen because of travel restrictions, but unfortunately, winning the British gives you a sort of 5-year exemption into the US Amateur. So I think that will probably be my last amateur event. I think, because I think going and playing the US Amateur is the biggest amateur event in the world, with the Amateur Championship. But having that as a double would be pretty special, wouldn't it?
And I can't help but think, and I just wonder if there's something to this. I don't know, but your grandfather's passing brought you back home, in which you then meet Tom. Like, have you ever processed that at all?
Yeah, I honestly, I thought about him when I was sort of giving my sort of winner's speech at the end, and I couldn't really let myself think about him for too long because I had to continue speaking and making sense. So I would have loved him just to see me play, and he didn't really get to see me play a lot. And I'd loved him to hear about the news, but I know that he's probably was watching that day, and he's always been such a special man in my life, and to make people proud is probably the best thing about succeeding at stuff, and sort of paying them back for all the help they've given me. And maybe it was sort of fate that's how things worked. So that was why I was down at the time to see Tom. You just never know how this world works. And even my girlfriend, she won the Scottish Amateur 2 weeks before. And maybe if she hadn't done that, maybe I wouldn't have believed that I could win. But, I think things do happen for a reason. My injuries, I think that's mentally toughened me up a lot and probably helped me through the last final, not get too down on myself. And, all of these things come together to create a perfect moment. So, just glad that was it.
All right, that's it. For now, anyway. Like I said, here at the Fire Pit Collective, we'll be tracking the careers of Laird Shepherd and Monty Scowsill, not to mention Chloe Godby and Andrew Davidson. Here's to getting more card in hand, avoiding the semi, working on being brand new, and winning 4 on the trot if and when need be. Thanks again to all the guests who made this 4-parter possible, and to Colt Nedler for the tireless and thoughtful technical support. And lastly, here's the full version of the story, the anthem for this podcast, written and recorded by Joe Horowitz and available wherever you get your music. It was produced by Jakir King.
Put another log on the fire. Nobody here is getting tired. Settle down and settle in. The story here's about to begin. The circle's starting to take its shape. Seats are filled and the tired sun plans its escape. And everybody's got some glory, just wait on to unfold. And everybody's got some story, just wait on to be told. The place for that is here. All those smiles and all those tears, let them go. Put another log on the fire. Nobody here is getting tired. Settle down and settle in. The story here's about to begin. tales were told of war and gold, lovers lost and of lifetimes, dreams that were sold. Maybe you should stop and listen at the wisdom in the air. Maybe you should pour your heart out, we ain't going anywhere. Find your mercy in the sounds as the smoke gets pushed around in your soul. Another log on the fire. Nobody here's getting tired. Settle down and settle in. The story here's about to begin. The story here's about to begin. The story here's about